Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 331. I am Peter, and joining me is not Matt. He was tagged out for the week, so I apologize. This is a formal apology to all the listeners, but Connor is here instead.
Yeah, I apologize for my schedule being somewhat freer than normal, apparently, right now.
Slightly freer than normal.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a DC Comics podcast, everyone. We get together, we talk about the DC books we read this week. And coming up on this week's show, we have Batman One Bad Day, Mr. Freeze issue 1, Nightwing issue 98, The Flash 788, Batman Superman World's Finest issue 9, Stargirl The Lost Children issue 1, GCPD The Blue Wall issue 2, and DCeased War of the Undead Gods issue 4. Plus, Connor's got, would you believe it, Patreon books to catch up on. So he's got Harley Quinn issue 17, Tim Drake Robin issue 2, or Robin Tim Drake, I don't remember what that book's called exactly.
Nor do I.
Yeah, it's one of those ways around. And then Noctera issue 11. So that's a bunch of Patreon books from Connor.
It's Tim Drake Robin.
Tim Drake first, though. Yeah, that's what I wrote down. Okay, clearly
yeah, lucky guess, yeah.
Subconsciously.
I mean, it was a 50-50 chance.
Don't diminish my success.
I will diminish everything you ever do.
My successes are mine. Thank you very much. Yeah.
You made a guess. Congratulations.
Yep. So there we go. That's what's coming up on the show this week, and we've got solicits to talk about. And not only that, they dropped some pretty big news as well. So the news itself is almost a mini solicits just for later in 2023. Despite the fact that it's for later in the year, we're going to do the news first because it's the big headline grabbing stuff. But we're not going to get to that straight away because there's always time for a ComiXology top 10. You expected things had changed in your absence?
Expected? No. Optimistic, maybe.
Oh, I just thought of a better introduction for you on this episode. I'm annoyed I didn't do it now.
You're wasting it now.
Nah, because what I should have said is reports of his death have been greatly exaggerated, or maybe it was just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Ah, damn it. Oh well, I'll use it in the future. When everyone's forgotten I said that, I'll whip back round.
Yeah. Next time I'm here.
So yeah, it's ComiXology top 10. As is the now tradition because of the way they split it up on the Amazon ComiXology chart, we'll look at Tuesday's top 10, which is the DC books on their own, and then we'll have a look at what the rest of the industry looks like from Wednesday. So yes, as of right now in ComiXology, what do you think the number one selling book is? DC?
Well, there's no Batman.
Well, there is,
this week.
but
well, there's no regular Batman.
Okay, sure, but there is a Batman.
I mean, there's always a Batman. But I mean, those higher price books don't always top the charts just on the sheer fact that they are higher priced. So I'll go with Nightwing instead.
That is incorrect.
Is it the Batman book?
It actually isn't, no. But it's
thank God. That would have made me look really bad.
But that is higher than Nightwing, so you're still going to look pretty stupid. No, number one. Don't doubt Geoff Johns because Stargirl: The Lost Children issue 1 is currently number one.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And the
That's
Golden
surprising.
Age one shot did quite well last week, if I remember right as well. So there's a
also,
thirst. Fun
fact with the Stargirl issue, that was day and date on DC Universe Infinite. At least it was. I'd subscribe for the Ultra stuff, so everything's like a month behind.
So it may just be the Ultra tier then, possibly.
It might be. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't check to see if I had an Ultra tag on it, but it was there, and not every. Most things aren't day and date. It tends to be like the tie-ins to stuff like the Young Justice tie-ins, the ones that were typically like digital first things before, like the Batman 89. I think those went straight up.
Well, it's not hurt its sales, clearly.
Yeah.
If nothing else. That said, though, everything should go day and date because then I can just get Infinite and never worry about buying a comic ever again. It'd be great. Well, at least a DC comic anyway. But I don't mind being 6 months behind on Marvel, though. I can live with that.
Marvel's only 3 months behind now.
Oh, I can live with 3 months behind on Marvel. That's fine.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, this is why competition's good. Marvel might actually go day and date first because DC have gotten to the month mark. They're like, well, now we just have to go.
A month is pretty good. I would say for most people, you can be a month behind.
Hey, if I could get a poll where most of our audience would be okay with us being a month behind, then
we just drop to a month behind.
We'd drop to a month behind. We'd do like a month of filler where we just talk about shit, and then we'd be a month behind, and we'd all be saving lots of money. That would be ideal.
I think the introductory deal is still on as we speak. It's on till sometime late November.
It's like 28th. I want to say it is.
I think, yeah, that sounds about right. And I think I paid, it was like £72 for a year, and it'll renew at that price if you lock in.
Yeah. At least for the
I think it's under $100 as well.
Yeah, at least for the foreseeable. I'm sure when they eventually put the price up, that might also affect anyone who's on the introductory price. But at least for your second year, you'll still have that cheap price,
which is an absolute steal, really. With the price of what comics are.
Oh yeah. So no. So anyway, yes. So number 1, Stargirl, The Lost Children. Number 2 is Batman: One Bad Day. And they have been selling relatively well, I think, on ComiXology by the looks of it. Number 3 is Nightwing, issue 98, which still does consistently very well.
That's not surprising.
Number 4 is World's Finest, and again, that's also been doing quite well. I don't know if Mark Waid's name is quite like Geoff Johns, but it does feel like his books have also been doing relatively well. Which, he's got Batman, Superman, and Batman v Robin
helps
books.
That he's got Batman in the name of both of his books as well.
But they have been doing sometimes surprisingly over other books that you'd expect to sell better because it's the main Batman book, or it's
the people know that the damn Mora art is what you should be there for.
Yes. I love how you can give a compliment to someone, but it actually sounds like a slight dig because you don't like Mark Waid's writing as much as other people might.
I actually, I had to catch up on Batman. So I had to catch up on basically everything. Just they made that clear. I had to catch up on this. So, but look, I had 2 issues of Dan Mora book to read back to back. I'm never going to complain about that.
Number 5 is DCeased, War of the Undead Gods. There's a lot of good writer names like this week. I'm noticing that's 2 Tom Taylors, a Mark Waid, and the Geoff Johns in the top 5. And Gerry Duggan. No offense, Gerry, but you don't quite have the same
credit.
Sticks out
as the typically Marvel name, right?
That's true, yeah. And not like well praised Marvel name either. Just kind of a guy who's there.
He's one of the, I say mid-tier writers. I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way. Like in the summer, there's a lot of DC mid-tier writers that are like workhorse writers. Up until recently, I'd have counted someone like Williamson in that tier. Well, obviously he's moved up now because he's doing the event and the highest profile stuff. But for most of the last 5 years, and I just he'll do a couple of mid-tier books, and they'll be mostly all right.
I would argue Williamson still is a mid-tier writer. He's just been treated like he isn't.
Yes, in quality, I would agree, but in terms of just I'm not sheer where they place him in their pecking order of writers.
Yeah. Pecking order is a different thing, but I would argue that he hits and he misses, and sometimes he really hits, sometimes he really misses.
I think Duggan's like that for Marvel. Not that he hits and misses a lot, but that he's one of those he's one of their stable of writers that will probably do 3 or 4 kind of ongoing books at a time. In that kind of mid tier of those writers, where he's not dominating the events, he's not headlining everything, but consistently there.
So there we got number 6 is Dark Crisis Worlds Without a Justice League Batman issue 1, and then we have number 7, which is Dark Crisis Young Justice, and then we got number 8, which is DC versus Vampires All Out War, and then number 9, quite low on the list actually for one of the main ongoing books, but The Flash is number 9, issue 788.
Is that still a tie-in issue as well?
No, not at all. No,
okay.
And even when it was it wasn't really that much.
I just thought because if it had been a tie-in issue, it would have made sense because you've got the other 2 Dark Crisis books right above it. But
and then number 10 is Black Adam issue 6. So very good. I will say Catwoman's very consistently been not in the top 10, even though DC is on its own in the Tuesday for a while now, which suggests that book's not doing too hot. But
yeah, that's Catwoman books never do that well though. Like, surprisingly.
Yeah, that's strange.
They've not sold that well for a decade at this point.
Yeah, and then GCPD, the Blue Wall's just behind that as well. But it's that's never expected, I think, to be like an ultra seller. That's something where the trade will be quite prestigious potentially, and
I'm surprised it didn't crack the top 10 still.
Yeah, I guess you just have like enough people buying Titans United Blood Pact, which was number 11. that.
Oh yeah, got to get those Titans United books.
Yeah, so. Hey, hell, it is what it is. And we'll have a quick peek at what the rest of the industry's up to on the Wednesday. So what do you think the number one book from the rest of the industry is?
I have no idea what Marvel are doing right now. There was a Star Wars book this week, I think.
There might have been, I don't know. Oh, there is, yes, there's a Star Wars book. It's not number one, though.
I'm judging, not number one, clearly. Was there a Spider-Man book or an X-Men book? I don't know what's coming out this week.
Okay, well, number one was Immortal X-Men issue 8, which is a Kieran Gillen book, which is why I thought you might know about it.
I mean, I'm aware of its existence, but I haven't started reading it yet.
Yeah, so... then number 2 is Star Wars, Hidden Empire.
Yeah, see, I knew there was a Star Wars one. And number... Do you know what? You were looking so hard for that, like, oh, God, no, because it's not Star Wars. Number 2. Because
it didn't stick out. Just because it says Hidden Empire in big text, but the Star Wars parts, like, I didn't recognize the character. This could just be a Marvel character for all I know. It's just someone in a red and white cape.
I haven't seen the cover, so I'll take your word for it that it doesn't look Star Warsy.
Yeah. Number 3 is She-Hulk issue 8. Number 4 is Iron Man issue 25. Number 5 is Blade Vampire Nation issue 1. It's a Mark Russell book. Number 6 is Gold Goblin issue 1 of 5.
Gold Goblin?
Yeah, Gold. I don't know. Don't ask me because I have no idea. Don't ask because I can't tell you. And then we got Captain America and the Winter Soldier Special issue 1. So it's just a one shot. Number 8, we finally have a non-Marvel book with Something Is Killing the Children.
Oh, it's a very good book.
So that's cool. Number 9 is Murder World Avengers, and then number 10 is Thunderbolts issue 4 of 5. So yeah, 9 Marvel books.
Marvel, yeah.
To be expected, relatively speaking. There's a couple of Sonic books out in the top 15 this week, which at least beat Namor and like Gambit. So
anything that beats Gambit.
Yeah, I concur. Also beat Dr. Aphra. And this may be a trade though. Hold on, let me just click on it and see what it is. No, issue 26. So yeah, Dr. Aphra is quite far down the list.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mid-20s at that point of the book, right?
But it's a start.
It's amazing that she's had a pretty consistent ongoing for quite a while now. Like obviously this is 26 issues. I think the last one got higher than that before they renumbered. So,
well, yeah, there you go. That's the top list of books from Comixology this week. We'll get into what we read, of course, a bit later. I assume you didn't catch up on everything that you didn't need to for today, so you've still got stuff from like last week.
Not everything. I've been working on some stuff around it. Nowhere near last week yet, though.
Okay. Just curious.
Anything in particular you were curious about?
No, not particular. I just happened to see in the corner of my eye the books from last week at the bottom. I just wasn't sure if you'd read any of last week's books. But
no.
Yeah. Although you read Golden Age, right? Because that was leading into...
I did read that, which I didn't really need to, but...
Oh, it turned out, but it felt like it might be relevant.
Yeah. I was going to leave it and just catch up with that over the next week or so. And you were like, oh yeah, that's how it spins out of that. It doesn't.
Well, no, I know that now because I've read the Stargirl book, but it felt like both Stargirl and JSA were... Well, it did mention the lost children. There was a mention of the missing characters that were new.
There was a mention.
There was a mention, so shut up.
There was a mention, yeah. You lied to me.
Well, I didn't remember the Stargirl Spring Bake thing from 2 years ago that they say is more relevant.
Yeah, that might have been useful to know, to maybe reread. Or a little bit of a recap page, DC?
A recap page would... I don't think it hurt the book too much, but it would have been nice to have a recap page just to refresh, like, what it's talking about, but still.
Yeah, because that was a while ago, that issue.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've had electronics like bought and died in that time since that issue came out. But we got big news to talk about. One big bit of news that has a lot of things in it, and that is Dawn of DC, which we kind of already knew about this, this titling, and they were, I think they were called the Dawn of the DCU before. Now it's just Dawn of DC, yeah. And it's basically just, it's another one of these sort of initiatives where here's a kind of a banner to launch a lot of new titles under, and we already kind of know a couple of them because we had all the Superman announcements already for early in the year. Action Comics 1051 being kind of the kickoff, and we have the new Superman book, which is actually in the solicits we're going to get to later. So basically, there's going to be a bunch of titles coming out after they've done this Lazarus Planet thing, and they're going to be starting new creative. Again, all it really is some creative shakeups and some new books. It's unclear from this list that I'm about to read from which ones are ongoing in minis, and the reason why I say that is because one of them is definitely a mini because the cover clearly indicates it's a mini. And I was also reminded it was also the winner of that round robin thing from last year, but that's...
Which, might be the only reason it's a mini, potentially. Possibly.
But it wouldn't surprise me if a couple of the others were also minis and they're just not mentioning that yet.
It is possible, yeah. They did say, that there's going to be 20 new titles and at least 2 other events after Lazarus Planet during the year as part of this event.
Yeah, that all sounds fine, yeah. There is an image that kind of like teases like some stuff. It sort of fades to black, but there's kind of like a timeline. The only reason why I'm bringing this up at all, to be honest, is because one of the things that it teases towards the end of it is a Hawkman symbol, and I'm only bringing that up because there's no Hawkman book listed in what I'm about to read to you. So, just worth mentioning that there's probably a Hawkman thing at some point.
Yeah, it's interesting because they seem to, like, on that image, they are pretty broken up by months that they're being announced.
So you would assume there's going to be at least one per month after that as well?
Yeah, I would assume so. I think it's interesting because we know that the month with Hawkman in has the Shazam symbol as well, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So I think it's interesting that they're not announced everything from that month, clearly.
No, maybe they just want to finalize at least one detail. Maybe they don't have like either the creatives like nailed down for it yet or something, and they want to hold it back. But regardless, we have a bunch of new titles to talk about. Ultimately, is what we're here today, and basically the announcements are from March onwards, because we already had the Superman announcements. So up first in this line of books, we have Unstoppable Doom Patrol, which is kind of cool. We're getting a Doom Patrol book. I think, Doom Patrol's maybe in a bit of a different place culturally than it was the last time it had a book, because there's been a TV show which is about to get its 4th season. Season 4 premieres in December. So even if that's not the world's biggest hit, the fact that it's had a 4-season TV show means that there's probably a group of people who are willing to read a Doom Patrol book that weren't before. And
probably that before it had Gerard Way's name attached to it, which definitely helped. I think its initial sales, just in its existence.
There's a lot of emos who never bought a comic book before buying that because Gerard Way's name was on it.
Believe me, I went to a Comic-Con where Gerard Way was signing around that sort of time, and oh my god, the queue of emos that went just it was a lot. But that book was ultimately hurt by some pretty significant delays more than anything else. It's actually quite a good book.
I remember being really confused by the first issue because I literally never read a Doom Patrol book when I tried that first issue. And then, I've since read a fair bit of Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, and I've watched the TV show. Like, I'm a lot more familiar with Doom Patrol as a property now, so I feel like I'd probably understand it now, but at the time it was very confusing.
Yeah, I went back and I read the first series of it, so there was like 2 minis, essentially. I think there were like 12 issues each, maybe.
Yeah, and then the Nauck Wars thing, whatever that was.
That was in the middle, yeah. That was a crossover. I read that first series, and it was really quite good. Definitely recommend it. It says here that this Doom Patrol book's from Dennis Culver and Chris Burnham, and I feel like Chris Burnham was involved in that book, maybe.
Okay. This is apparently spinning out directly from Lazarus Planet. The world's strangest superheroes are saving the world by saving its monsters, and there's a cover for this, and even like a page of colored comic art. I'm kind of pumped for that. I mean, I don't really. I mean, Dennis Culver's not a name that strikes like excitement in my heart or anything, but I am happy that there's a Doom Patrol book, and I'm excited to give it a shot because I do like a bunch of those characters, and just sort of looking at this like unfinished art page and seeing Negative Man and like Cliff and all that, like it's just nice to see. Yeah. So cool stuff to have them back. The winner of the round robin, which is Superboy Man of Tomorrow, is coming in April. Kenny Porter writing with Janai Lindsay, right, on art. Determined to find his place in a strange universe, Connor Kent / Superboy leaves Earth behind, but his journey of self-discovery brings him face to face with a group of freedom fighters who challenge not just everything Connor stands for, but what it means to be to bear the Superman crest. This is probably the least exciting one. A, because we kind of already knew about it because it was the winner of the tournament, but it was also one of the least interesting sounding of the tournament. Yeah,
we weren't particularly excited about that even at the time.
No. It's not funny where if you reframe it as it's just in this list of new titles, like, it's a Superboy book, yeah, I'll give it a shot, whatever. But knowing what it beat, it's like,
Yeah, it's probably the least exciting thing in this entire lineup as well.
Yeah. Also April, there's no artist yet, but we have Mariko Tamaki getting a new book, hopefully an ongoing, because I would like this one to be, and that is Green Lantern Hal Jordan. So this is just, a Hal book, which seemingly is going to be set more on Earth than space itself.
Yeah, I think just to counter out, you say, you hope it's an ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
Later in the year, we have Green Lantern John Stewart.
Yes.
From Philip Kennedy Johnson. And the fact that that's later in the year, I'm going to guess it's a 6-issue mini, and it'll start pretty much John Stewart will show up pretty much after Hal Jordan finishes.
That's less interesting to me than just having 2 ongoing books.
That's interesting, but I think that's what I would suspect is happening, and it's their way of not, because they really don't want to oversaturate Green Lantern right now. They've been insistent for a while of having just one book.
I hope you're wrong, because I want both of these.
I hope I'm wrong. I want both of them, but
because both of these have people on it that I want to read long form stories from. I really like Tamaki, and I really like Philip Kennedy Johnson doing John Stewart. So, I just hope you're wrong, basically.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. I actually looked at this and thought, we're finally going to have 2 Green Lantern books again, and you're trying to dash that hope.
I'm not trying to. I'm setting your expectations. It's expectation management. I'm helping you in the long term.
Are you though? I don't know.
Yeah, well, you don't want to get really excited to have 2 Green Lantern books and then they crush you like in a few months' time. You just prepare yourself for that.
I think you're reading a lot into later in the year, because that's what you're basing this all on.
I could be, but they have announced all the others. They've announced up to June. We've got books announced up to, so it's at least after June, right?
That's only 2 months later.
Well, no, because it'll be July by the time it's announced. So we'll have had 3 issues of Hal Jordan, which for me, I'm like, okay, I can see that being halfway through, and then
that's only half of it. All right, I think you're reading too much into this. I
would like an apology when they announce it my way.
No. If you're right, then you're the prick for putting this thought out there, and it's your fault.
I'm sure DC have already made the decision on how many issues this is. Or at the very least, they have an internal decision that they are not sharing right now.
They haven't decided shit. How many books end up being longer than they originally thought?
No, that's kind of what I was getting at, where they've definitely got a thing recently in recent years where they will announce something as this many issues, but they have a back-end deal of, if it sells the X well, we will extend the issues.
Yes. Well, I'll be cynical for a second, because the next book's Cyborg coming in May, and I don't care what they say about this will effectively be a miniseries. even if they say it's an ongoing, it'll be a miniseries by the time it ends.
Yep, they haven't even announced a creative team for this one yet. They're just like, of course we're going to have a Cyborg book. Why wouldn't we?
Yep. I'll give it a try like I do most Cyborg books, and it'll probably get one issue.
Get one issue like most Cyborg books.
Unless, the team's just that exciting and do something interesting with it. I don't see that going Whereas, I mean, obviously there's no names here at all, but those names on both Green Lantern books are tantalizing. It's like, okay, yes, I want more books from these two writers, regardless of what they are. Pretty much the fact that you're giving me Green Lantern books, which I've been feeling kind of deprived of for a while, is even better. Obviously, it'd be even better if it was a Jessica or Kyle.
I would not be surprised to see those coming. Like if my theory is true, I think you get, for the next couple of years, essentially, just we'll run through all the Lanterns with the 6-issue mini.
I'll read them all except one.
You'll read it.
We got Batman Brave and the Bold, which they've listed a bunch of names here, but clearly it's going to be rotating teams. We got Tom King, Mitch Gerrits, Gillian March, Gabriel Hardman, Dan Mora, Rob Williams, and more. Although Tom King's the only writer there. Maybe is Tom King writing all of this?
No, it's.
No, okay.
I did see that they said it will be different creators each issue, and it's obviously the premise is Batman teams up with different heroes. That's what Brave and the Bold has always been.
So it's a series of one shots, effectively.
Yeah, basically.
That's fine. Well, there'll be good issues. There'll be bad issues. The one with Gillian March, unless it's like a great writer, in which case you get that conflict. But otherwise,
on the bright side, I mean, it's an anthology series. It'll be easy to skip.
Oh, of course, yeah. Then we got a Green Arrow book, which is something we've also been missing for a long time since his ongoing ended way back. So this is going to be Joshua Williamson with Sean Isaacsy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go with that. This is coming in April. Oliver Queen has been lost since Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, and his family has been determined to find him. But there are dangerous forces just as determined to keep them apart at any cost. So, there's a little bit of a monkey's paw here with this one. Now that Joshua Williams is writing it, I think he's a perfectly fine writer for a Green Arrow book.
This is, when I say, mid-tier writer, this is the sort of character I expect a Josh Williamson to be on.
I have no problem with Williamson writing a Green Arrow book. The problem with this is the tie to Dark Crisis, because I've been enjoying Dark Crisis, as has Matt. But the thing with Green Arrow in the last issue felt just kind of murky, and we didn't understand why it was happening the way it happened. So the fact that this is spinning from that is kind of weird. I'm sure it won't actually matter that much after the first issue or two, but it's like, whatever. I don't know.
I have no idea what that thing is. This is going to be weird for me when I start reading this Green Arrow book.
Hopefully it's just something they brush away quickly. But if the first arc's about getting to him or like him coming back, then it might be a very big thing in the first arc.
Yeah, I think the fact that, because it's obviously that's Williamson's event and this is Williamson writing this, it'll probably feel like a pretty heavy follow-on as opposed to another writer just kind of brushing it off. Yeah,
that would be my thought. And obviously he's writing Superman, which is his big book. So, I always do like the writers who are big DC writers having two ongoings. One, which is, a bigger character, and then one is like a B character. I do like that kind of setup. And then we have a Shazam book coming in June 2023 with Mark Waid and Dan Mora, which is the current World's Finest team. Billy Batson is back as the champion in an action comedy comic about a boy with powers that rival Superman's and the whole lot of growing up left to do. We'll see Shazam hanging out at the Rock of Eternity, his secret clubhouse that can travel through space and time, as well as punching dinosaurs in the face, seeing how long he can hold his breath on the moon, and getting into wild and fun adventures with his tiger, Talkie Tawny, by his side. This is all great. The only slight thing I don't like about this is that I am loving the current Mary book from Shaner, and I'm a little sad.
That was only ever a mini, though, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but I would like it to be more than that. So, inherently, I'm a little sad that we're back to Billy just because I'm enjoying what the current thing is, and it's only 4 issues, so yeah, I would like more.
Yeah.
But Mark Waid and Dan Mora on a Shazam book is not something to be upset about in any way, shape, or form.
It sounds fun, and Newsarama also clarified that neither of them are leaving World's Finest. Apparently, Mora's pulling art duties on both. Which sounds extreme, but he was doing this for a good while on he was on Batman. Was it Batman? No, he was on Detective, wasn't he? While also doing Once and Future, and just Once and Future had a couple of break issues that let him get ahead on tech, but they're like break months.
Yeah.
Whereas I think World's Finest just will have the occasional fill-in artist. I think even February we'll get to it in the solicits. That's a fill-in artist.
Yeah, we've already had one, so it's like we don't even have to.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it'll just be like, but as opposed to just one issue, it might be 2 or 3 at a time. You know, a little small arc without him, and then he'll rotate through arcs essentially.
Well, I'm just glad that Waid's still on World's Finest, and that's still going to be an ongoing book because I'm enjoying it. And there was a chance that maybe either it was like going to end around this starting, or possibly just have a new team on it. So that's cool to hear. Next up, we have The Penguin, which is a Tom King and Stefano Guadiano book coming in June 2023. After escaping Gotham City and his current criminal past to happily retire in Metropolis, which has actually already been set up in another book, the Penguin is forced back into organized crime by the US government. The feathered felon and Gotham City will never be the same. So
this is the most Tom King premise ever, right? The Penguin has to work for the US government.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily need a book with Penguin as the main character, but, you know, it's Tom King, so I'm sure it'll have some interesting commentary and things to say. I also don't feel like I need a Penguin TV show, but we're getting one of those too. So
yeah.
So, you know.
Apparently people want Penguin.
People want Penguin. So somehow Penguin's getting more stuff right now than Joker is. I don't know how that happened, but he is. Steelworks is next up, and that is no team as of yet. It's coming in June. Just in time for his 30th anniversary, John Henry Irons must bring Metropolis into the future while trusting his niece Natasha to carry the mantle of steel. That sounds like a fun idea, is having like both of them and having it be kind of this legacy passing.
It definitely feels like a mini in waiting.
It probably is, just because it's a smaller character that doesn't tend to have ongoings. I don't know if Steel's ever had an ongoing off the top of my head, but
I can think of.
But, you know, it sounds like a fun enough premise for a book. Again, it's down to creative team. This is the sort of book, though, that I'm sadly expecting to get, like, some unknown creators on it that I've never heard of. And then it may be good still, but there'll be no, like, guarantee or, like, hype for it as a result, I don't think. It is interesting, though, because if you bundle this into the Super line, though, it's like, oh, this is, like, the C-list Superman book of the month. Like, it kind of has a place in that bouquet, if you will.
Yeah, it makes sense. Just kind of padding out the Superman family. It's the sort of thing that if you throw in a Supergirl book as well, like, you know, it definitely. I know that that's maybe gonna, you know, to step on some toes with what they're planning with action, though.
Yeah, but arguably so does this, because I think this is exactly the sort of backup that could just be in action as well, and they're still doing it. So, I like with the action going bigger with the two backups. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if Supergirl's just in there for a while, but at the same time, she is the biggest second super character, if that makes sense. So I also wouldn't be surprised if she ends up with a book again before the end of the year.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if it's one of these to be announced.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at this list as a whole, I'm delighted that there's a Doom Patrol book. I'm delighted that there's some Green Lantern books, also a Green Arrow book. And I'm excited for the Shazam book. And then the others are kind of like, oh yeah, we'll see what they're like. And they're not as exciting on their own, but it's not a bad list, you know, especially since it's not like we're replacing a bunch of books in the sense that, you know, we still have a lot of the books that are ongoing are still ongoing. We still have Batman, we still have, you know, Superman Action Detective and Nightwing, and, you know, all these other things that we're currently enjoying are still happening.
Yeah.
So if this was like we're cancelling everything and this is just the books that we're starting with, it'd be like, oh, there's a lot of stuff missing. But that's not the case with this particular list.
No, it's pretty varied. Also, I've just had a glance again at that image, you know, the black image of the timeline.
Aye.
A couple of things I've noticed on there. It has the events across the top. So obviously we have Lazarus Planet, but in the middle we've got one that seems to be starting in July by the look of where it is on the time, and it's night something. Night as in Dark Knight.
As in night spelled with a K.
Yes, but I was specifically saying that because my assumption was going to be that it's probably a Batman related event.
I mean, probably, but like I would probably compare it more to Nightfall because it's written like that, where it's night first. So, you know, it'll be nights. I can see it being all one word effectively. Night.
You say that as if that's not a Batman-centric event.
No, that's not the point I'm making. I'm saying that the Dark Knight. I'm saying
I wasn't referencing the Dark Knight the movie. I meant the Dark Knight as in Batman.
No, I know that. I'm not saying you were referencing the movie. I'm saying that Nightfall's the perfect thing to compare it to because it seems like it's going to have a very similar title because Night's coming first. It's a better comparison.
I don't understand what you think I was comparing it to.
Well, because you were basically just trying to say how the word night is spelled.
Yeah. Night, as in Dark Knight, as in it's a bat event. That was a perfectly logical sequence of steps.
The way this is presented on this is that you see the word night, and then it fades to black so you can't see what the second half of the word is. So, if anything else, this is probably this title, in the same way that we have a lot of crises, or we have a lot of rebirths, I feel that the point of this title is to harken back to Nightfall as a title.
Possibly. I will say we can see the first letter of what actually looks to be a second word. It looks like a space. It's a T.
Night. Treat.
Yeah. That'll do it.
Night.
And,
takes over. I don't know.
The only other thing I've got from this image is the thread going across the bottom. Very, looks like some Brainiac tubes, like wire tentacles, wires.
I suppose, yeah, maybe that's leading to the big event, the third big event at the end of the year. Yeah,
I was just thinking. I'm assuming Brainiac related.
You could also, maybe not. I don't think it really makes sense with what's already there. I was going to try and theorize about the different strands, and maybe that represents like merging of timelines or some bullshit, but I don't think it actually does. I think I'm just
if anything, it's kind of it's only one side of it, but it's kind of going alongside like one type of like a DNA strand. I could see it coming. Like this is the DNA of the DC universe. Is kind of what they're trying to say, right?
Yeah, something like that. So there you go. So that's the big Dawn of DC announcement. So there's a bunch of books, which we'll get more information on, if not before, then certainly when these are all solicited when the time comes. Yeah. So some fun stuff in there, and I think what's nice about it is that like it's not a lot of there's like 2 technically Batman books, but by and large it's all things that were kind of missing from the lineup, rather than just here's some more Batman and Superman books. Yeah,
but there's always going to be more Batman books.
Yeah, but it's such a small part of this, whereas it could have easily have been like here's like 9 Bat related titles and then 1 B-lister.
And you'd like it.
Well, if the teams were alright, I probably would like it, but
yeah. If you wouldn't like it, you'll buy it anyway because Batman.
I just appreciate some of the variety.
I do as well.
So we'll get into the solicits for February 2023. Obviously, we've seen some of this stuff in some form or other. We get to have a look at some of the nice covers, if there is some, and just generally have a look-see. So, starting off with Superman issue 1, which we knew was coming from Joshua Williamson and Jamal Campbell. Start of the new run. We'll see what this new era of Superman's going to be.
It interests me. It mentions that it's an oversized issue 1, but it still only lists as 32 pages. So either no ads or somewhere is a typo in there.
I mean, there's mistakes in these sources all the time. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Some nice covers here. There's one of like young Clark in the field, which is quite nice.
Not a fan of that one.
I like that one. What about I assume that's Parasite's hand coming through like plastic? That looks really nice.
It does look pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very, very stylish cover. So yeah, some cool stuff in there. There's a lot of variants for this one actually. It's an issue 1, so I guess they're going all out in the.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
Yeah. It is worth mentioning it's $4.99, which would indicate that it is oversized. Because unless this is one that's always going to have a backup, in which case that's normal.
Yeah, we'll find out next month.
I guess we'll find out. Yeah. Action Comics 1052. So obviously they're highlighting these new super lines here at the start. So you got Johnson on the main story, but you've got the Dan Jurgens and Leah Williams backups. Dan Jurgens, I won't mention this every time, but just to reiterate, since it's just sort of still a new thing, he's doing kind of the sequel to Lois and Clark that he did, just before Rebirth, which is set during that time with young John Kent. And then Leah Williams, I believe, is in a Power Girl story. So,
yeah,
cool stuff.
Something I'd like to say is during all the marketing of this, you use the word backups. Then they've been very careful to avoid using that because they're billing it as 3 equal value stories.
Okay.
I would maybe like to see them change the order in each issue, like rotate which one gets to be first to kind of highlight that they are supposed to be equal value.
I don't think they will, but I can see it always being the Superman story first, just because he's the headliner.
It probably will end up being that, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting to see what the page counts for each story is then, because there's not enough pages for 3 20-page stories. So, I mean, no. You say equal, but I've got a funny feeling it's still going to be 20 pages for Superman, and then the rest, split up for the other 2.
It may well be, and if that is the case, by all means, keep calling them backups.
Yeah, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with them being backups. Like, I actually think this is a fun idea to give some of the sub, characters some stories, to be honest.
I don't think that's a bad choice. Just I've been noticing how they've been calling them, these 3 equal billing stories. They've not wanted to call them backups.
Yeah. Connor Kent's on the cover of this one, and I'm only pointing that out because the cover for the current issue that's coming out next, or that just came out, has like the super family all floating in front of the Fortress of Solitude, and Kenan Kong's even there, but I noticed that Connor wasn't, and I thought that was quite funny. Also,
it's a throwback to earlier Rebirth days.
Yes. And the 2 kids are in this one as well because they've got their own super suits now. So we'll get more into that stuff. I don't know if you're caught up in action.
I am not.
No. Well, this is the 2 kids that he saved from War World, who him and Lois have basically adopted. So
I'll get that.
Yeah. So that's cool. Cool stuff. I don't like that main cover, but they're all in a sort of group. Well, that second cover is quite nice as well, actually.
Quite a few nice covers, to be honest.
Yeah, the second cover is like the background's the blue, so all of their blue in their suits is just sort of the background, and like the other details are just drawn over the top of it. Quite interesting.
There's a really stylish one by Fornes.
Is that the one with the kid on the treehouse?
No, Fornes is what I'm guessing is Metallo.
Oh, right, yeah.
Robot head. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I love a good cyberpunk looking bit of art, so I'm all for it. Next up, we have Lazarus Planet Next Evolution issue 1. This is a one shot, and it's got a bunch of different writers here, so it would definitely imply. I mean, my assumption from this is that this is going to be a lot of shorts that lead into, other things coming up, perhaps. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of neat names on this. Writers, we got Ram V, Brandon T. Snyder, Chuck Brown, and Delilah S. Dawson. Art, we got Late Kumar, Laura Braga, Aletha Martinez, and Mark Morales with Rowe and Stein. So, yeah. So, interesting stuff here. And it looks like we've got a variety of characters here on this. Who's this one with the scope thing on the cover? Who's this?
I don't know. I'm looking at the solicit text. I'm going to say this is the heroic Deadeye.
Okay. I was going to say it looks like some sort of weird redesign of Deadeye, but yeah, fair enough. If I'm forgetting this is Lazarus Planet, so yeah, we've got all these weird. So we got Red Canary and stuff.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. So I'll see how much I'm into the Lazarus Planet stuff before I commit to any of this. But there's again some decent covers for this. Has to be said.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Has to be said. We also have Lazarus Planet Dark Fate issue 1, which is Tim Seeley, Josh Williamson, Dennis Culver, A.L. Kaplan, and Alyssa Wong, writing with art by Baldemar Rivas, Chris Burnham, A.L. Kaplan again, and Haining on art. So, Yeah.
It looks like exactly the same, just with a different set of characters.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think is how kind of Lazarus Planet in general's like doing its thing. It's all these kind of
even to the point where both of these books have a Marquez cover as their primary, and even the next book that we're going to get to. So it very much feels like 3 books kind of doing the same thing.
Well, the next one's a little bit different, and Lazarus Planet Omega issue 1 is the finale of the whole thing. That's because it's the book ended by Mark Waid issues. So this is Mark Waid and Jean Lune Yang writing, with art by Riccardo Federici, Billy Tan, and more to be announced. So this is going to wrap everything up. Is this one? So yeah, going to be kind of a weird mini event or whatever you want to call this, because it doesn't feel like a big event. It feels kind of like a one of these little we can all kind of go wild with these weird other versions of characters kind of thing.
Yeah,
but yeah,
a lot of characters on that cover.
There is. That second cover is very nice though. I'm not sure what is that. Ben Oliver maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
Regardless, again, lots of nice covers, and there's a lot of variants for this one. So
I see there's a Jem Bartel one.
I figured you'd like that, yes.
Yeah, oh, I do like it.
There you go. Next up, we got Batman versus Robin issue 5. Continuing the Mark Waid story. Have you caught up on this?
I've read I don't know. I've read some of it. I don't know if I'm caught up.
Well, there's only been 3 issues, but there's a lot of things that have kind of went down.
I think I've only read 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've got 1 more to read.
I shall not say anything then, but yes. But yes, very, very curious. What's interesting? This is the
final issue.
Yeah, this is a 5 of 5. That's why it was so weird to read that there was a whole this mini event thing spinning out of issue 4. It's like, wait, the second last issue of this miniseries is spinning out into stuff.
It's fine, because a bold new chapter in the lives of Batman and Robin begins in this issue, because they have to make sure you come back for the final issue and not just worry about whatever was coming next.
Yeah. To be fair, I've actually really enjoyed it for the most part, and I like that Wade's really getting in deep with the continuity now with this, and obviously even more so that he's taking on other projects. So
it is interesting some of the deeper cuts DC are willing to make with the continuity right now. Obviously, we'll talk about it later, but referencing Gotham Central in current continuity is a pretty deep reference at this point in terms of just sheer time.
I love it. It's perfect. Do it.
Yeah, I'm not complaining, but it's definitely a change in direction to what they've been in recent years.
We just had to get rid of Didio. That's all it was.
Basically.
We got rid of that. I want to swear so bad. I'll just say F-wit. Just imagine I'm saying the full thing.
I'm sure many people can imagine that perfectly fine. Yes. And most people probably thought it themselves at some point about him.
Next up, Batman 132. So I'll be interested to see what the next arc of Batman is with Chip at the helm. Once we're post this.
Tim Drake backups though, so I can finally read Tim Drake and not have to see what's going on.
Who's on? Oh, is it still Zarski in the backup?
I think it must be, because he's the only writer listed.
Oh, there you go. Interesting. That's cool. That's cool. Obviously, Catwoman's in this issue because the first 2 covers are very Catwoman heavy. So
quite nice covers, to be fair, both of them.
Oh, sure. But yeah, very cool. Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo, issue 4. This is the Mark Silvestri book that neither me or Matt decided to try just because we read the title and went, I don't know.
This is the one that was like a decade in the making. Like it was announced a long time ago in a different format, and yeah,
no, I'm all right. Thank you very much. But yeah, that exists. It's still going. Very good. The Riddler Year 1, issue 3. Only issue 3 in February. That must have taken a month off at least somewhere. Because issue 1 already came out this month.
Oh yeah, must have done that. Yeah.
It is shocking how long you were doing the math in your head.
I'll be honest, I didn't know what month we were in.
Oh, Jesus. Shocking. That's
a long year.
Honestly, I would have tried issue 1, and the only reason why I didn't is because this might have been one of the weeks that we were doing a lot of books catching up from when we were off for a week. So I never read it, sadly, but I was curious. I was curious. Batman One Bad Day Clayface issue 1. This is Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing with art by Zermanico. You know what? The writing team doesn't
makes it worth reading.
Yeah, the writing team isn't that exciting, but then you put in Zermanico. Okay, you've got your linchpin.
I mean, just look at that Zermanico cover.
Yeah, it's very, very nice. With it's Clayface, and then Batman's also kind of like made out of clay, or he's coated in clay, whatever you want to call it. But it's very pretty.
Yeah.
So
I think he's made out of. It looks like he's coming out of Clayface's hand.
It does look like that. Yeah, it does look like that. Yeah. Second cover I'm not as into, and it's not that it's even that bad. It's just that compared to that first cover, it's so kind of cartoony. It just give me that stylish main cover.
It's not like a terrible cover.
Yeah.
But...
Nightwing 101. What we're learning in this, I wonder. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good joke. Everyone liked that. I know they did. So Tom Taylor's run continues. Obviously, issue 100 is a bit oversized, if people remember. In fact, so is this one, actually, by the looks of it. 40 pages. Interesting. So, I mean, it is $4.99, but it's got the extra pages. So,
just it mentions about the new team of Titans in this issue, and that's because partially they're kind of being the main team going forward for the rest of the year. It seems they're being adamant that there's not going to be a Justice League book for a while.
Oh, okay, that's cool with me.
And I don't think in universe there's going to be a Justice League either. I think it'll be the Titans stepping up.
Yeah, so that's cool. And interesting. This is going to a bigger, at least for a month. Maybe it won't stay with the extra pages and the $5 price tag, but
maybe there's a great Titans variant as you go through them.
Even that, I assume that's a Jamal Campbell cover with Nightwing with the sticks. That looks quite good with the lines behind him.
That's not Campbell.
Is that not Campbell?
That's not Campbell's signature.
Oh, fair enough. The shading was kind of Campbell-esque, but that may be Travis Moore, maybe then?
Price is the signature, or something like that.
You mean Picat, maybe?
Maybe?
No, that's a writer. There's no price in that. There's like 3 variant artists listed, and none of them have prices.
There is, but the signature is just on the right. Just if you look under where his hair's
yeah, I see it. Price
definitely looks like a price.
Price with a Y. Well, none of them, unless Vasco Gargiev goes by Price as a pseudonym.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is, but yeah, the Titans covers. That's the Moore one, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be the Moore one. It looks like Moore. So, yeah, that's nice. We got Poison Ivy issue 9. So, there you go.
I kind of forgot that wasn't a mini.
Well, it kind of was, and then it got extended to 12, and then it may get extended again more, they said.
Well, I don't see a of 12 in that.
No, I don't think they are, because they're kind of treating
winging it.
Yeah, because I think it did say like 1 of 6 originally or something like that on the cover, but then they changed it to just ongoing or something or whatever. I don't know. I remember seeing like a tweet about how the cover had changed its labeling.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
So, if you're into Ivy and Harley being romantic with each other, it seems like you're going to enjoy this issue.
It's been a good book so far. A little behind. I think I'm 1 issue behind still, but it's pretty good.
Yeah. So there you go. I like Wilson's writing, so I wish she was on something that I cared a bit more about. But I'm glad that the book's good for people who are into. And I like both characters well enough, but I'm just not necessarily into them as having their own book. Detective Comics 1069, obviously just continuing Ram V's run.
Yeah,
all fine and well. Yeah, so Mr. Freeze stuff going on. Not mad at that.
Well, those covers still phenomenally styled.
That one with the red like smoke monster, whatever it is particularly nice, I think.
That is very good.
That's very good. Oh, and there's another version of it where the background's black and white. It's just the red that's in color.
Oh yeah, that is gorgeous as well.
We got Static Shadows of Dakota issue 1. Let's see what this is, because I don't know. This is written by Nicholas Draper Ivey and Vita Alea, with art by Nicholas Draper Ivey. The cover's fairly nice, actually. It sort of plays with lights and darks quite well. You've got Static kind of like on his electric disc in the middle.
Yeah.
It's got a nice little look to it. Static is back, though Virgil and his friends might have been able to stop the government's off-the-books prison operations in Dakota. A powerful new threat lurks in the shadows. The mysterious Ebon is cutting a bloody swath through the underworld on a single-minded quest to find his brother. Against this backdrop of exploding violence, innocent people are finding themselves in the crossfire. The breakout creative team of Nicholas Draper Ivey and Vita Alea have returned to make Static's life and Dakota City very complicated indeed. You never felt shortless. Is Dakota City like Static's fake city in the DC universe?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
It's just continuing the milestone stuff, right, which we've not really started.
Yeah, we've not really looked at the milestone stuff much. But I wasn't sure if this was a real place, because obviously there's the state, North and South Dakota, and I was just wondering, is this what it's talking about, or is no? It said Dakota City, and I went, oh wait, no. Is this a real place somewhere?
Specifically a city. Yeah. There is a Dakota City in Nebraska. And there's one in Iowa.
Oh, so it could be one of those.
It could be. I don't think so, but
yeah, I don't know. So that's cool though. It's another 6-issue mini for Static. It's nice that these milestone books are getting sequels of some form, because I think you could have been not blamed for worrying that they wouldn't sell enough to get that treatment, but it's nice that they are keeping them going. So
yeah, that must be pretty consistent.
Yeah, and speaking of, Milestone 30th Anniversary Special is a one-shot out. This is kind of like the other 100-page specials you get that are anthologies, except this one's all Milestone stuff with a big list of names. You got Chuck Brown, Nicholas Draper Ivey, Stephanie Williams, and others on writing. Nicholas Draper Ivey, Yasmin Flores Montanez, and Dennis Cowan, and others on art. So they haven't listed all the names yet, but if you've read any of these like anniversary issues for the characters that we've done in the past, you'll know exactly what to expect with this.
Yeah. On the bright side, we've not been reading the milestone stuff, so we can skip this 100-page issue.
Oh, sure, yes.
Those things are hefty.
They are hefty. And then we got another new mini for Milestone, which is Icon versus Hardware issue 1, which is a 5-issue mini. So, we're getting a crossover book for one of their next batches.
Yeah. Interesting to see them solicit a book without an artist.
Oh, really? Yeah, TBD.
By TBD, yeah.
That's interesting. Maybe it's just a case of like, I don't know, they've just not quite put pen to paper, so they don't want to actually say it yet, but they're just finalising it.
I would hope so. I would hope it's not a case of, we don't have an artist lined up yet, but we're going to have this book out in February, don't worry.
It'd be so weird to commit to it when they could just wait and solicit for a month later if they have to find an artist first. So I have to assume that they have something cooking.
Yeah. They're claiming this is a jumping on point for the current milestone stuff, even though it's the kickoff of an event. So we'll see.
Okay, interesting. Then we do have another 100-page special that we might actually want to read, which is Shazam: Fury of the Gods.
There's a lot of names on this one.
Shazamily Matters issue 1.
See, I wish they'd just called it Shazamily Matters.
I know, that would be way funnier. I also hate that they called it Fury of the Gods special, because you're tying it to a movie. I mean, I know Zachary Levi's written one of the stories, right? I get that, but
I assume the movie comes out in February, at least allegedly right now.
I think it's March is technically listed for, so,
Okay, close enough. This is on sale on the 28th of February.
So yeah, probably like a week or two before.
So basically March.
Yeah, so writers include Zachary Levi, Grace Caroline Curry, Ross Butler, DJ Corona, Adam Brody, Faith Herman, Henry Gayden, Colleen Doran, Josh Trujillo, Tim Seeley, and others. And others? That was already like 10 days. What are you doing, others? Yeah. Art by Freddie Williams II, Andrew Drillian, and Jim Lee and Scott Williams. That's cover. Sorry, it's on the same line.
So we have like 12 writers and 2 artists.
I'm sure they'll get some more artists before it comes out.
I hope so, because otherwise those poor artists are doing 45 pages each.
I said this is one that we're going to have to probably do before I realised it was a movie tie-in. Now it looks like it's going to be all like the movie versions of characters. It's probably an easy skip, sadly. But because I assumed when I glanced down and saw this, I thought,
are those all like actors for the movies.
Yeah, these are all the movie actors.
Obviously, you got like a few towards the end, like Tim Seeley. That's obviously not. But are the rest of them all the actors, and they're just like paired up with someone?
Oh, yeah, because Adam Brody's there. You're right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe they're all paired up with an actual writer. There's a co-writer too. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
No, I was saying the cover. Like, it's all the likenesses of the actors on the cover. So.
And then it has an actual movie cover
with all with just all the actors. I always hate when you get a comic cover that's just a photo. It looks really weird to me. I don't know. I don't like it.
Like, I hate as well they do it with books. Like when when the movie comes out and you just get the movie poster as the book cover.
At least if it's a movie poster that's like a piece of art, though, I don't mind it as much. But a photo is that's a magazine. A magazine uses a photo of actors, like not a comic book. That's weird.
That should be the cover on like Empire or something.
Yeah. So maybe that is a skip then because typically
with really badly photoshopped heads on them.
Oh, for the act.
Like every single one of them.
You're right. They do look quite rough.
That looks so badly done.
Yeah, a lot of their necks look a bit tall. Like, why don't they just have photos of them? Like, I don't understand why.
There's definitely some shots of them in costume, like for publicity. That's what they exist for, people.
Oh, I'll never understand. Next up, we got DC Ruby issue 1. I swear we've had this book 5 times already, but they're doing it again.
Yeah.
So
Bennett writing though, that's not nothing.
I don't know if Margaret Bennett's that much of a draw to me.
She's really solid. I've liked pretty much everything I've read from her.
I don't know, her Batwoman kind of fizzled, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah. I'm not saying she's like amazing, but I've enjoyed most of what she's said.
Holy shit! Swamp Thing Green Hell issue 2.
What?
When was issue 1? When was issue 1? Look this up for me.
Last year.
I know it was last year, but when was Green Hell issue 1? Because it's been. Where's my Titanic gif? It's been 75 years.
Let me see. On sale. Oh, okay. December 28th last year. So the very last week of last year.
2021. So it'll be like 14 months to get issue 2 out. I don't know why it's taken so long. That was a really good issue. I'm going to have to reread the goddamn thing before this comes out because it's been too long. It's been way too long.
Yeah. But what the hell happened?
But it was good enough that I know I definitely want to read this and talk about it, so I'm going to have to reread the first issue.
See, you say that, but I'm like, I don't want to read it if I'm going to have to wait 14 months for issue 3.
Well, one would hope that it's not going to be the same again.
One would hope that, but they also did solicit this issue as well.
Yeah, but to be fair, this is clearly irregular. Whatever's happened here.
Yeah, this was, I'm pretty sure, solicited for last February. Do you think they just got the year wrong?
Maybe
someone put it on the calendar due for February 2023.
I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Doug Mankey was sick. Maybe he had like family things to deal with, and they just sort of waited for it to, to be done with. I don't know what the reasoning is, but regardless, I'm fairly confident it won't take 14 months. I mean, it may take 6 months, but it's not going to take 14.
I'm not willing to say I'm fairly confident in that.
I'm confident. The first issue was great though. These covers are very nice. I'm excited
These are all the same covers we had solicited last time, because I remember at least 2 of them.
Well, whatever, they're still good.
They are still good, yeah. So I'm sure we said that a year ago as well. So
they're highlighting a few trades before the rest of the singles, so I'll just point these out. Batman Volume 1 Failsafe, obviously it's Zdarsky's first arc. First 6 issues, as you'd expect. Batman Spawn, the Deluxe Edition. Yeah, there you go. Was that what you expect? Sandman Universe Nightmare Country Volume 1. So this is the hardcover of the first...
It doesn't say, but I'm assuming 6 issues.
184, could be 7 at a push.
It says that it includes a mini print of Death of the Endless by Jenny Frison.
So probably 6. Sandman Universe Nightmare Country Volume... Wait, was that not what I just read?
Oh, so what you had before was like a hardcover version with some exclusive cover art and stuff. Collectible hardcover.
Okay.
Whereas this one is just the
trade.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. You get trades for those. DCeased War of the Undead Gods.
Also, it was 6 issues. It says in the paperback version.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah. Surely this is meant to say Volume 1. There's no way...
Or the Undead Gods is only 8 issues.
Well, that's true. When's this solicited for? May?
May.
Oh, yeah, I guess that works out. I was thinking it wouldn't be ready in time, but yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, if we just did issue 4 this week, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that works fine.
DC vs. Vampires Volume 2. That's what you'd expect. Task Force Z Volume 2. It's the back half of that miniseries. They're doing one of those box sets where they put a few trades together. So there's 3 Flash trades going together. And they are Fastest Man Alive, Flashpoint, and the Batman 1989 movie. So this is for the new movie coming out.
It does say, read the stories that inspired or were influenced by the motion picture The Flash. Which allegedly is coming out.
Hold on. Read the stories that inspired the motion picture The Flash, and one of the 3 is the comic adaptation of the 1989 Batman movie.
Well, that's because Keaton's in it, isn't it?
No, I get it, that's why it's there, but that's just... No, that book exists...
That movie inspired The Flash.
Oh my... No, piss off. Just piss off with this logic. I can't get on board with this at all. Batman, the 1989 movie adaptation, is getting a new printing, new soft cover.
On its own, outside of that box set.
Yeah. I've actually seen a few pages of this because in my old Blu-ray of the movie, you got like the first, like, I don't know, 12 pages or something like that.
Fair enough.
There's like a little preview.
Very Ordway art, so it probably looks pretty good.
It looks alright, yeah, it looks not bad, yeah. Then also Flash, Fastest Man Alive. And then Flashpoint got a new edition, which I'm sure Flashpoint's always been in print. I'm not sure anyone's desperate for a new version, but that's fine. Wiz Comics issue 2 Facsimile edition. Batman, The Doom That Came to Gotham new edition. This is Mike Mignola and Richard Pace with art by Troy Nixie and Dennis Janke. I'm not familiar with this, but it's a 3-issue miniseries.
It's very good.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely recommend it to anyone who hasn't.
Yeah, well, there's a new printing of the 3-issue miniseries coming out, so it'll be easy to yeah. Oh, this is an old cover. Look at the DC logo in the corner. That's the corporate Peel logo from like 10 years ago now. It
is, yeah. I guess they forgot to update that on the file and just whipped out the old version.
I guess they did. Batman Who Laughs Deluxe Edition. I guess that's Worldly Ever Deluxe. So.
I mean, honestly, while I don't obviously think it's that good, I'm always in support of this because I think every mini that DC puts out should get a deluxe edition because deluxe editions are nice and they look better.
I mean, I don't dispute that, but I feel like this is getting a deluxe because Scott Snyder wrote it, not because of anything else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Alright, so back out of the singles then for February. We got Batgirls issue 15. And I've been enjoying this book. I think it's gotten markedly improved after issue 1's like overstuffedness became less of a thing.
That's fine, but the most important part is there's a Dan Mora variant.
I mean, that's always good. I like the main cover with Steph as well.
I actually like all the covers, so...
Yeah, Dan Mora cover is very nice. I love how they all have like different colors in their costumes, so they always look good as a set, you know?
Yeah.
And then even Nightwing's on that cover with the blue just to add to it. Yeah, they all look nice. There's a bunch of nice covers for that issue. Batman Incorporated issue 5. I forgot this existed, if I'm honest.
Even on Infinite, where I'm like, I could read it. I still haven't.
Yeah. Batman Superman World's Finest issue 12. Yeah, we have Emma. I assume that's Emanuela Lupacino. It's just they've shortened it.
I assume so. They've just maybe decided to give it a shorter name from now on.
Yeah. I mean, Emma's easy to say. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah.
I mean, look, obviously, we love Dan Mora on that book. Dan Mora needs a break. Also understandable. Lupacino's a great fill-in.
We still get a fantastic Dan Mora cover though, because you got Robin and Supergirl in the foreground, Batman, Superman in the background. I love just kind of because it's set in the past. We get these more Silver Agey looking characters, and I dig it with the Dan Mora art.
Yeah, it really works.
Yeah, so all very nice. Yeah, Batman Beyond the White Knight issue 8, which is the final issue of that miniseries. And then we got Batman Gotham Knights Gilded City issue 5, which is the penultimate issue of that one.
That's the tie into the game, yeah?
I would assume so. The game that is crashed and burned and I assume isn't selling very well because
it's already on sale.
It's already on sale and doesn't run very well on a technical level, and just finding out simple things where it's like you're hoping for, oh yeah, give me more of that Arkham combat, and then oh there's no counter button in this, and there's no jump button. Like what?
Yeah, it's a bit janky.
Very, very weird. Batman: The Adventures Continue, Season 3, Issue 2. So that's going on. As is Batman: The Audio Adventures with Issue 6. We got Black Adam Issue 8 of 12. And as most of these have had nice covers, this one continues that trend.
Yeah, I would actually expect this one to only be 12 issues as opposed to get extended. I think Priest probably likes the, works well in the confined format, and then we'll do something else after. And
not only that, I think you also have the fact that this in some part, even though it's not a tie-in to the movie, probably exists because of the movie. And by the time this is done, it'll be,
100%. I mean, I know this past week, James Gunn, obviously, is now in charge of all this stuff, was tweeting pictures of Mr. Terrific. I think it was that Alex Ross cover from JSA, the earlier John stuff. When they did all those like the blacked out covers with all just one character on, they did a whole run of them for a while. Give Priest a Mr. Terrific book next. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I'll read that.
So you got Black Adam there, and then we got Blue Beetle Graduation Day issue 4, which is the 6-issue miniseries, which is starting very soon. So
yeah, this month I think, right?
Yeah, well, it's advertised in all the back of the issues right now, so
yeah,
it's definitely on the horizon. So no, I mean I'm glad for Jaime to get new minis and series every so often. He's kind of like a nice little character to keep continuing. Catwoman issue 52. As much as none of us are really that interested in reading the current run, ever since obviously Ram V finished up, I do think it's impressive enough that it's gotten to 52 issues. That's a good length for any comic ongoing right now to get to be honest. So. Yeah,
especially as we kind of said earlier, the Catwoman book has not sold well. Even even when we were loving it under Ram V, it didn't sell that hot. It never cracked in.
Yeah.
Top 10s of anything.
I think it was doing slightly better than it is now, but yeah,
maybe slightly, but I don't think it was a huge difference to the point where I don't think they're looking at this going, oh my god, the sales are so much lower, we need to change course.
Yeah. Danger Street issue 3, Tom King's book, which I'm very much looking forward to. This is his next 12 issue kind of...
that cover though.
Oh, it's gorgeous, yeah. It's his next prestigious 12 issue book. Yeah, can't wait for that. DC Horror presents Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead issue 6, so that's wrapping up the Bruce Campbell written horror book.
With a zombie Hitler.
With zombie Hitler. I mean, of course it ended with zombie Hitler, right? What else would it end with?
It's a fair point. Like it's the only logical conclusion.
DCeased War of the Undead Gods issue 7 is coming out in February, so very cool. GCPD The Blue Wall issue 5, penultimate issue of that.
Yep.
Duggan, you can see Mayor Nakano on that cover there. I like that it's still kind of in continuity, even though obviously it's focusing on, a very different set of characters.
It does feel very much like in continuity, though. Like nothing about it feels out of place.
No, but at the same time, it could easily just be taken aside and you could adapt it without, it mattering, because it's all on its own, self-contained. So, very nice. Gotham City Year 1, issue 5, penultimate issue of that. So, very cool. Harley Quinn issue 27 is coming out. I don't know if there's anything interesting to say about that. Probably not. Harley Quinn the Animated Series Legion of Bats issue 5, which is the penultimate issue of this animated series tie-in.
I'm just reading the description for Harley Quinn. It says 50 to 80 Harleys from other universes. Is that a Wild Hogs reference? Going back to those days of Twitter, before Twitter was on the verge of dying. Maybe, for all we know, it's dead already by the time you see this video. Was it 50 to 80 Wild Hogs? Was that reference? Was that what it was?
I don't remember.
Do you not remember this part of Twitter? That one day where that was the thing.
I vaguely remember something about hogs, but I mean, I don't know. I really don't. I Am Batman issue 18 is next. So that's still going. Justice Society of America issue 4 by Geoff Johns and Mikel Janin is next. So that's issue 4 of 12. Well, it was always 12 issues. This was.
Yeah, God, can you imagine them trying to give Johns an ongoing? Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Maybe with his TV show cancelled, maybe he's got the time to write an ongoing now.
He'll find something else to keep busy with.
But he's got this and the Stargirl book simultaneously, so he's doing a couple.
He does, and he's also got a book or two at Image, right? With he's definitely got one with Gary Frank.
This is the most he's ever written comics-wise simultaneously in a long time, right now. So
probably since before New 52. Yeah.
Monkey Prince issue 11 is out in February, and then we got Punchline: The Gotham Game issue 5.
Did you guys bother trying that?
We did not. No.
Shocking.
Yeah, did not appeal. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You issue 120. Stargirl: The Lost Children issue 4 in February. Which looks like it's getting a little bit, well, I won't say meta per se, but you've got Stargirl reading a Flash comic on the cover. And then you got Superman Space Age issue 3. This is the Mark Russell book, where it's 3 80-page issues. So, you know.
Is that every other month?
Yeah, it's not monthly. Because issue 1's already out, so yeah, it's definitely taking time off between.
Did you guys read it with it being 80 pages?
I think it was a busy week, so I don't think Matt might have went back and read it afterwards.
Fair enough. I'll check in with him.
But I'd have to double check. Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 5. Then we get the Flash 792, which is the next part of the 1 Minute War story arc, which they've been teasing. And we get the Flash 793, which is also part of 1 Minute War.
Flash double shipping?
As for this arc, at least. They switched to double shipping for this arc. The entire arc takes place in 1 minute.
That makes sense.
Is the big gimmick. So I guess they thought a quicker turnaround was a good idea. The Human Target issue 12, the final issue of the current, quite frankly, phenomenal book by King.
I won't speak to the quality of the series, but my God, that cover.
Oh, the cover is beautiful. The covers have been knocking it out.
Oh yeah, they have always been stunning. Pretty
consistently. And they're all good there, but yeah, that first one is definitely my favourite of the 3.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal stuff. And then we got The Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing, issue 5, the Matthew Rosenberg book.
Not phenomenal stuff.
Not so much, no. And then we got Sandman Universe, Dead Boy Detectives, issue 3.
I saw just some stuff on this the other day, just like, like, not even marketing, but just, the creatives involved kind of tweeting a few things. I'm very interested in this now. It sounds really good.
We got Tim Drake Robin, issue 6. And then we got Titans United Blood Pact, issue 6, which is the final issue of that. Wildcats, issue 4, which obviously just started last week. And then we got Wonder Woman 796, which is still the current team, so I can ignore it still for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we're out of the trades then at that point. That's all the single issues done. We got Batman Volume 5, Fear State. Obviously, this is just the soft cover version of the last Tynan arc. Deathstroke Inc. Volume 2, Year 1. We have Harley Quinn Volume 3, Verdict. I Am Batman Volume 2. Infinite Frontiers paperback is coming out. GSA by Geoff Johns Book 5, which is collecting issues 46 to 58, and then a couple issues of Hawkman. I do like DC are doing these collections. I feel like they're becoming less relevant if you happen to be digital, because, well, you can just get Infinite Ultra.
Yeah, and with Infinite, I think it is specific for Ultra, I'm not sure. At some point this month, still some ethereal up in the air date, they will be adding trades as well as just single issues to make things like this even easier for reading through.
Okay. Well,
especially older stuff where you are jumping around a lot.
Yeah. So I don't remember, what this correlates to in terms of like the old, because I don't even think all of it was released in single trades. But
no, it was a mess.
But yeah.
This is it says Black Rain, so that's the Black Adam stuff during that run.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like how far into the run this is. This is probably into the second omnibus, I imagine, by now.
Yes, or I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe even the middle chunk. If the first omnibus was split in 3 for the first 3 trades, this is probably the middle chunk of the second omnibus, I would guess. Yeah. But good that they're still continuing with it. All the same. Then we got Legends of the DC Universe, Carmine Infantino. So it's kind of a, you know, a hodgepodge
showcase,
of different issues. Multiverse 18 Justices trade collection, Naomi season 2's hardcover collection, Power Girl Power Trip, which is a 12-issue series, which I have not read, but this is
Palmiotti and Connor, and Justin Gray series. It was very good. I enjoyed it a lot.
When was this? Was it this pre-New 52?
Oh yeah. This was a good while before.
Yeah, I thought so. Robin Volume 3, Secrets and Shadows. This is the last of the Williamson run paperbacks. Obviously ending with issue 17. We got Sandman Mystery Theater Compendium 1, which has Sandman Mystery Theater issues 1 to 36 and the annual issue 1. This is kind of a wild paperback collection to throw out.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's something I've always kind of been meaning to read and just not got around to.
Yeah, this is Matt Wagner.
Hopefully they'll throw that up on Infinite. So.
Yeah, this is Matt Wagner and Stephen T. Siegel. Well, the good thing is if they're adding in trades at the Ultra tier, even if they don't add the single issues of this, then you may still get the trade collection.
Yeah, they've been adding in, like, they've said they're going to add more Vertigo stuff as well. So, yeah, it'll be nice when all that, you know, drops again at some point this month. But also, they did tell us that it was going to be summer to be outside the US on Infinite, like a long time ago, and it was not summer when we got it. It was like a year later.
True.
So, I don't trust their timelines when they say things, is what I'm saying. I just opened up and checked. The Stargirl issue is not part of Ultra, so that's just day and date on there.
Okay, well, that's the end of the solicits. We're done, finally. Between that and the news, we're already an hour and 20-something minutes into this.
They did give us a lot of news.
So they could have just given us the Dawn of the DC stuff next week when there's typically no news because solicits dominate this week.
Yeah, you'd think, wouldn't you?
That'd have been nice and convenient, but, you know, whatever, I guess. So, yeah, all right. Well, I guess we can get into the comics then for the week. So, Batman, One Bad Day, Mr. Freeze, issue 1, Gerry Duggan writing with Matteo Scalera on the art. So, is this our fourth One Bad Day? Or third? Maybe third.
I think of...
No, I think it's fourth, because we've had Penguin, we had Riddler, and we had Two-Face. This is the fourth. So, so from a creative team perspective, this was probably the one that I was the least excited for so far. But I
like Scalera's art a lot.
Well, I didn't know who he was off the top of my head, so I didn't have any. But the writer, you know, Gerry Duggan's not someone that inspires any kind of feeling from me, good or bad. So, I went with this, you know, kind of just neutral and was like curious. I like Mr. Freeze as a character, so I was curious what they were going to do with it.
Yeah, what their aim is take all that sympathy that you have from the typical Freeze origin and make him less sympathetic.
I actually think it's a bit more complex than that. I think what they were trying to do here is they were trying to split the difference between the traditional Mr. Freeze backstory that most people know and kind of take some of the ideas of what Scott Snyder did in the New 52 and sort of go somewhere in between the two of them so that you have something that's more akin to the classic story, but brings in some of that less sympathetic element that was introduced with the Scott Snyder. Because if no one remembers this, in the New 52, Scott Snyder redid Mr. Freeze's backstory with a sort of twist, which was that he was never actually married to Nora Freeze. That wasn't really her name. This was like a woman he was stalking and obsessed with and who wanted nothing to do with him. So it kind of turned him into this big creep. So it took all the sympathy was gone and he was this monster. Which was an interesting issue because it was an annual that told that story. But at the same time,
art, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think most of us really necessarily liked the change. it was
one of those typical. I'm not going to hold Snyder responsible, really, because I think it was one of those New 52 change for the sake of change. Like he probably got told he had to change it to some degree.
Oh yeah, possibly. I think what this is doing is a bit more interesting though, because This is basically saying, no, they were married. He does love her, but it's presenting the idea that it wasn't a perfect marriage and that there's, some, like, the way he's going about this, it's not, because I think his backstory before, one from the animated series and the one that's been traditionally presented in comics is that, he loved his wife got sick, he froze her, and he hopes to cure her one day, all that stuff. It's all fine, right? And, obviously the animated series episodes about it are really good and all that. I think what this does is that it makes it feel more real in a way, because it's saying, no, it's not just this fairy tale thing of this perfect husband who wanted to do this for his wife, but he turned evil because, this accident happened. It's presenting that, no, he had problems and there was, I don't know, I feel like this added more layers to the character to me.
It's because I understand where it's come from and why you like that. I think for me, the idea that he was, again, I think for me as well, this falls more on the idea with One Bad Day, is that he was a quote unquote normal, kind of regular, upstanding guy beforehand. He did love his wife. It was a if not perfect relationship, but healthy relationship, because this definitely paints it as extremely unhealthy. I think I prefer that idea that and then in his trying to find a cure, things go wrong. And it's not just about having an accident, but more the situation makes him more cynical as time goes on, and he becomes worse. I prefer that angle than this, where he's kind of a shitbag already. Like this is definitely presented as, no, he's a very controlling husband. He's not a good person, and I don't really like that angle. And it's not as bad as the New 52 take on it. Don't get me wrong; it's not as far in that direction. But I still don't really like this side of it either. It still takes away what I liked about Mr. Freeze's origin.
It's a believable level of flaw, though. I think what I like about it is that it's not. I don't think it does make him a completely awful person necessarily. I think it takes him and says, no, he had his faults. Because it's not like he goes to this extreme level where they say he's controlling of her like by the end, and obviously it's kind of shitty that he doesn't let her friends see her before she's seemingly going to die. But by and large, it sounds more like a natural kind of like relationship where he does just sort of like, retreat into his work. He doesn't socialize. He's kind of like cut off from the world, and that makes her feel alienated. And it feels like, no, they had actual marriage problems that she's kind of being honest about, as she thinks she's dying, and he's not going to be willing to let it go. But it raises this interesting question: is he freezing her and being determined to save her for her sake because she wants to live? I think finding out that she actually was like, no, I'm ready to die, don't like obsess over me, like do something good, because you've got a you're intelligent, you've got this brain, you have the capacity for helping people, which of course you get, because I think that's the thing with the ending, is that there is a little bit of that gets through, and he does actually do something good for the world at the end of the issue. But this idea that he's actually doing it out of this selfish thing because he needs her in his life to obsess over, and perhaps maybe even you could argue that some of it might even be guilt over the fact that he didn't give her any attention for a long time up until she got sick and started dying. I'm kind of reading into that a little bit there. It's not necessarily spelled out, but I think I'm not saying I necessarily want this to be the canon origin necessarily going forward, but I think I appreciate that it tried to just make the relationship feel a bit more real, that there was some problems, but it didn't necessarily start off in a problematic place. It wasn't, he was a stalker who was, staring at her and like I say, delusional.
It's significantly better than the New 52 version in that respect.
Yeah,
I think for me, like I said, you can have problems, and it doesn't have to be a perfect marriage for me, but I think the fact here where it gets to the point of like, oh, you can't see your friends, and it's where it's raising this question of he's freezing her for his sake, not hers. I think that before freezing her, I think he has to be more sympathetic than that for me.
Why?
Because I think for me that's the tragedy of Freeze, is it's in the failure to save her, the desperation. That's where he kind of loses himself, and without her there to pull him back, that without that kind of relationship, that's where he kind of falls apart and becomes villainous. This here, where he's already it's a very selfish reason that he's doing it to begin with, and where he's starting that journey, for me takes away that that entire journey, because he can't go through that because he's already in a pretty bad place. So for me, that's significantly less interesting.
He's not a supervillain, though. I think there's a big difference between a guy who's slightly controlling, and notably, I think I'd point out here that he's only controlling once she's on her deathbed. Like, he's not saying you can, because I mean, it's very clear early on that she goes out with her friends all the time. It's only at the very end that he sort of denies access, and he never tells her that. He lies to her and just says it was some nurses or something like that.
Yeah.
It's only to the other people he's saying go away. So, and I'm not sticking up for this behavior. I want to make it clear. I'm just saying that this feels more like a flawed human being to me. So it's not as much of a switch being flipped when he has an accident one day when he can't save her and goes nuts and becomes Mr. Freeze kind of thing. I think this is just trying to make it a bit more, I guess, it's a bit more nuanced and potentially grounded. And maybe you don't necessarily want that or need that, but I thought there was more benefits to this, and it felt more like a natural fit to it than what Snyder did with oh no, he was a complete stalker and creep the whole time. And
I mean, like I say, on the scale of things, significantly better than that. Absolutely will not. And I think it's a very well told issue as well. Despite my personal hang-ups, I don't think it's a bad issue.
Yeah, it's kind of the story in present day of Dick Grayson as Robin saying to Batman, you don't believe that any of them can be redeemed, and he's like, well, maybe Mr. Freeze because of what happened to him. And it's kind of the lesson that, in some level he was already doing things for the wrong reasons. And when Batman sets him up with the lab and says you can work on this, when Freeze fails just once, he gets mad and like crashes the lab and goes out and on a spree and all that stuff. But along the way, there's just some great scenes where he runs into Mr. Freeze in the tunnel. I think Mr. Freeze's first page when he comes out of the shadows is particularly nice.
Oh, that full page, yeah, that is very nice.
It's very good stuff. You get sort of the Mr. Freeze origin stuff playing out. Obviously, it has a lot of blues and a lot of the shadows and the colors. It's really, really nice stuff. There's that full page spread where he's kind of doing the, on his knees, arms up, kind of scream in front of his frozen wife. It's really nice.
It's a very appropriately winter issue.
Oh, yeah. It even ends with some sort of Christmas spirit to just, set in the time frame. And you also have a bit of Matches Malone fun when he's looking for Freeze. And there's some nice things here. I love Alfred being sassy with the let me just spray you with some of Matches Malone's favorite cologne. I got a chuckle out of those little moments. Yes. So they track down Freeze, and he has that glorious entrance. And I think Batman, the art is actually quite good. I wasn't really that familiar off the top of my head with the artist, but the art is quite good, I have to say.
He's one of those artists that I've followed for a long time. Like, to the point, I've tried Rick Remender books just because of his art. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, but honestly, the only time I think in the whole issue I felt like I didn't like a panel was where Batman throws the Batarang and he's sort of like bending backwards. His body proportions look really weird to me in that panel. But other than that,
I don't even know where that is off the top of my head.
It's just a couple pages after Freeze enters in the tunnel for the first time.
I'll go have a look. See if I can...
Freeze fires his freeze gun at him, and he fires a Batarang back at him. He's dodging the freeze ray, and he throws a Batarang. But he's I don't know. There's something about the he's got a bit of like a Johnny Bravo body shape going on.
A little bit, yeah, he does.
Yeah. It's not a big deal. It's a minor quibble because the rest of the issue is fantastic.
The page before that, where you've got just Batman in the entrance.
Yeah. Or even the page after with Freeze holding Batman against the wall. Looks really good. So
yeah, and I don't know who's on colors, but they do a phenomenal job because especially in this back half where Batman's wearing this sun suit to combat the freeze stuff. Like, I don't necessarily like the design of the suit. I think it's a bit bulky and whatever, but I do like the colors. The way it has the that orange to contrast with the blues. Stave Stewart on art, should have known.
Yeah. You've got a little segment where Batman and Robin are dressed up as Santa and an elf on a street to catch some motorcycle thieves or whatever it is, and just some shenanigans. There's kind of a fun vibe to some of this issue, despite the fact that it's dealing with this sort of more serious side of Mr. Freeze. But yeah, so yeah, Freeze actually kind of flashbacks to his dying wife and her telling him to move on and not obsess over. And that's because that's who he is, and that's something she realized by the end of her life is that he has this obsessive personality, and maybe the marriage wouldn't have lasted forever anyway because of that. And I think that's maybe why I kind of like it as well, is that's kind of like, you know, him remembering this is what makes him start to trash the lab. It's this idea that this is true and he doesn't want to admit it is, you know, something that really eats at him, and he feels kind of called out by it. So it was, by the way, great panel of him walking away from the explosion.
Oh yeah, so good. Yeah,
especially with the blue lines in his suit, which is otherwise silhouette, that kind of contrasts with the orange of the explosion. Is really nice. So yeah, you know, so they go after him. Some nice shots. We've got like a snowmobile version of the Batmobile that's got the treads instead of the tires. So there's some nice panels of that along the way. Yeah, so obviously Robin ends up saving Nora whilst Batman and Freeze are fighting, which Freeze obviously appreciates, and you know, he ends up getting like caved in at one point, and he's sort of hunched over as Batman's standing over him. It's a whole big climax. It's all very beautiful and nicely drawn. Something as simple as when all the police cars show up at the end of the scene, like all the reds and blues of their lights all kind of pop off the page, which I really like. Yeah, there's also a nice little joke towards the end actually, where Robin says, "So did you rent out a LexCorp laboratory because you knew Mr. Freeze was probably going to trash it?" And Batman's like, "Knew is a strong word," but the implication that he could have used like a Wayne building, but he didn't.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah, I thought I liked that. But Freeze, because he's thankful to Robin for saving his wife, whispers something to him, and it's actually some like cold tech that'll help, as we find out in the last page or two, ship medicines around the world, and it'll help a lot of people get medicine that otherwise had to use like really intense freezing technology to make it work. So it's this idea that he does a good deed by the end, and actually did something that his wife would be proud of. So, you know, I think it's this idea that he's a flawed person, and ultimately he still kind of like did something nice by the end, which I think still keeps some of the sympathy with the character a little bit. You know?
Yeah.
It's a little bit less
I do
two-dimensional.
like that ending a lot. I think it's a nice touch to kind of, despite like, you know, my reservations with the issue, you know, with him kind of being more unsympathetic than usual. I do think it feels like a bit of an olive branch almost to people who feel like me, as to no, we're keeping him as one of the more sympathetic Bat-villains still.
I mean, I think it goes along with what you were saying earlier with like her being this tether that keeps him kind of good. This idea that she inspired this good action after her death, and maybe the reason why he was getting worse as she was getting sick is that the idea that she's getting weaker, so her power as being his influence of good, it was diminishing as her life was like nearing its end. But, you know, it still kind of fits in with that internal logic, I think. So, no, those are pretty good for being the one that I was not expecting to be anything I was excited about. I ended up coming out of it really enjoying it. I enjoyed it's a slightly different spin on Mr. Freeze as a character. I really liked the art. I thought the Batman, Robin, and Alfred stuff was all pretty charming and funny. Like, they were very likable, I think, throughout this issue with a little banter and.
Definitely, we don't see Duggan writing a lot of DC. I can't think of any really.
Yeah, just something like the running gag where Robin keeps thinking he's going to get to drive the Batmobile, only to find out he's not, and then at the end, Batman's like, "You can drive the Batmobile back," and he's like, "Yes!" You know, it's just a nice little payoff.
No, I think he's got Duggan's got a pretty good handle on them.
Yeah.
No one sounded out of place.
Yeah, so it's good. And it sort of bookends because it starts with a snow angel image, and at the end, Mr. Freeze is in the Arkham, like, you know, courtyard making a snow angel. So yeah, oh, very nice. So I like to quite a bit actually. So I don't think there's been a dud yet out of these.
No, none of them been terrible.
Yeah, I think the Riddler one's still my favorite. This could be my second favorite though. Riddler was the Tom King one. That was he's a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yes. I know you didn't like it as much.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything. I genuinely couldn't remember which one that was.
Two-Face was a fun continuation of Mackey's detective continuity, with some big weird Two-Face like swings, but still entertaining for what it was. And then the Penguin one was
was okay.
alright.
That's probably my least favorite.
But yeah, Penguin's probably my least favorite too. Yeah,
it wasn't bad, but it was kind of a different take. Right, there's a lot of different takes on Penguin right now.
Honestly, the average like rating for me on this, like even if it tanks after this, like the fact that this has been as good as it's been for 4 issues out of the 8 or whatever many it is actually pretty good. Because it could have really been a case of, oh, there's one standout and then the rest are all mediocre to bad. Like that was very much a possibility. So I think we're already like out ahead of feeling like the whole line's been a disappointment. The only issue now could be that they've front loaded it all with all the better ones, but you know, we'll see.
That can't be the case because we've still got the McKelvey one to come.
The only issue now is that they make it front loaded with all the good ones. All right, what are you rating One Bad Day, Mr. Freeze?
I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I think objectively it probably is higher than that, but just because of the way the story worked for me, or didn't specifically, kind of brings it down a little bit. But the actual quality of it is quite high.
I miss Matt. All the cynicism's
I'm sorry this story didn't resonate with me.
Wearing on my soul.
More uplifting.
I thought it was quite light and cheery, to be honest, aside from the Mr. Freeze characterization. I'm going with an 8.5. I really liked this one, and I thought it was a really nice self-contained story that was an interesting take on the character, and it was really quite beautiful at times. Great use of shadows especially. So that is One Bad Day, Mr. Freeze. Nightwing, issue 98. Tom Taylor writing with guest artist, and I appreciate that it says guest artist in the credits for this, just to make it clear. No, this is not the regular artist, and that's okay. He'll be back. But we got Daniele D. Nicuolo on the art for this. And probably, well, not necessarily my favourite style of art. I understand why this was the perfect fit for Nightmate, which is what this issue is mainly focusing on.
First few pages, I was like, oh, this is very different.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of guest artists, they've often been like sticking to the same sort of profile. This is obviously very actively different. And then once it gets to, Nightmate, a few pages in, you're like, okay, this makes sense. I
forgot they announced this was going to be a thing, because I probably would have guessed what the cliffhanger from last issue was had I remembered Nightwing was going to, or Nightmate, sorry, was going to be a thing. Because when that Rick Grayson cliffhanger happened last time, I was like, what the hell is this? What are you doing, Taylor?
I read 2 issues in a row before this, like a few days ago. And I was like, what the hell? And I've not really been keeping up with the solicits and the news as much. So I'm like, what have I missed? Surely I'd have heard about this. Like, what's going on?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, me and Matt both said we trust Taylor, and we're right to because obviously within like 2 pages, it's like, oh no, it's just that an imp who's looking like Rick Grayson for a minute,
and then turns into 90s Nightwing.
Turns into 90s Nightwing, and we get this fanboy imp who loves Nightwing, much like Mixie loves Superman, but is far more light and
benevolent.
Yeah, also far more fanboy-esque, I would say, in a kind of a nice way, but. And there's a couple of nice sentiments in this actually about fandom, which we'll talk about at the end of it, I think. But I'm sure you loved the Joker, and I loved it as well, just for Babs' reaction, which is Babs is like laughing her ass off that he's got an imp, and Nightmate says, Batgirl. Wow, I mean, I ship him with Starfire, but whatever makes him happy.
All I'm saying is, Nightmate got taste.
Yeah. No, Batgirl's better, but I did love her. Like, excuse me. And like oh, she probably needs to leave now before she like shoves his tiny head into. And then
we'll have a little impromptu wedding.
Oh yeah, he just like makes a wedding. He gets everyone who would be invited like there in an instant.
I like as well that Dick assumes that they're all just illusions, basically.
Yes.
Just not actually there. And then Batman starts talking to him. And he's like, oh shit. You're all here.
You're actually a Batman.
Starfire's front and center next to Batman. Because obviously it makes sense, she's there as with the rest of the Titans. It's not like just here, let's be weird. But it's just quite funny that she's front and center after like a page or 2 after that conversation.
Yeah, and I actually really like the reactions because you get the big full page spread with all the characters, but then Bab screams no, And then he's like, no. And then Dick's like, not yet. And then she's like, not yet. Like, you know, there's just a little like, oh, so
yeah,
you see that in our future. Interesting, which obviously you do. Like, this is a pet peeve, not with like writing. This is not a pet peeve for comics or movies or TV. This is a pet peeve with just people in life. Is that this idea of anyone reacting shocked when you suggest the idea that one day a couple might get married, if you're in that couple, or if you're talking about another couple, it's like, well, yeah, well, what else is it good? Like, that's just the natural, like, yeah, maybe you've decided you don't want to do that, and that's fine, but it's not a weird thing to think that it might eventually go there if you stay together long enough. That's not a weird, shocking thought.
No, that is pretty common, I would say. You know, in the laws of the universe, when you look at the amount of married couples,
yeah,
you got to say, on average, that has to be.
It just wows me, and it's like turning to someone 10 minutes into a movie, going, you know, I heard this movie's got end credits. End credits. Anyway, so yes, you know, and Nightmate makes fun of Batman. It says, I don't see what Batmite sees in that guy, but all good. It's all very adorable, right? All this is very adorable stuff.
It is. He makes the dog talk, which I kind of hope sticks.
Yes, but not like super like coherent. It's just kind of simple, like good human, like Dick, feed me kind of things. This is all very simple, you know, dog thoughts, basically. Also gives Bitewing a cape as well.
Yeah, obviously, it's a full like harness suit thing for the dog to wear. He's got a Nightwing outfit on, not just the cape.
Yeah, so I mean, you say that, but Nightwing doesn't wear a cape, so the cape's unique to the dog.
True, but the way you said it sounded like just a cape.
Oh sure, I think it's the main defining part of it though. It's a dog with a cape. You kind of noticed that. I
mean, yeah, but it's got the rest of a costume on as well.
Yeah, Bitemate, Bitemate. This is so confusing because there's Bitemate, Bitewing.
No, this is Nightmite.
Nightmate. Oh, sorry, yes, not Bite Night. Bite Night.
Now you're sounding like the dog.
Oh god. Nightmate. He's got merch, which is that famous panel of Batman slapping Robin, but it's Nightwing slapping Batman instead. You know, this is just Tom Taylor popping everyone. He just wants to pop everyone with these jokes. But the whole point of this is that Blockbuster made a deal with a demon and sold his soul, but he also sold the soul of one of his innocent children who is going to be attacked by demons tonight. And that's what it's all about, is that he needs to, you know, help Nightwing in that, like, go and save her. And I'm sure, you know, Nightwing gets his sticks imbued with some imp magic and they glow.
And he has to say Nightwing is awesome.
Yes.
To make him work.
And they save the girl, and it's all very nice. They get Raven involved to help. But if I have this is the slightest of nitpicks, right? Slightest. Is that...
Oh, go on.
Is that they bring in Raven, and Raven's like, oh, you've got an imp? And sort of snickers about it. I'm like, she was at the wedding scene. You saw this. You saw the imp. This is not new information to you.
I didn't take that as her being surprised at seeing the imp the first time. It was more just, oh, the imp's there. And she's like, oh, yeah, you've got an imp.
I don't know. The reaction...
I don't know.
The reaction, the panel before she says it, with them popping in next to her head, and then I don't know. The art told me this, that, but it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Even if I'm right, it's not a big deal. It's just a small thing. But yes, so she thanks Bait Mate as well, and it's become a thing now. I think it's Bitewing exists. Is this infecting my brain?
Does Bitewing have a mite? That'll be Bite Mite.
So yeah, but there's a nice little sentiment here at the end of this about how, you know, if you're going to obsess over me and like worship me and put me on this pedestal, eventually I'm not going to live up to it, and it's going to just be a problem. So you should never put anyone on that much of a pedestal. So, you know, I'm a person. I'm Dick Grayson. What's your name? Don't define yourself purely by me. And there's something to be said there about people who define themselves purely by the fandom that they, you know, they've put themselves in and obsess over. You know, So, yeah,
definitely, especially as like in current culture, over the last few years.
Oh yeah,
there's been plenty of examples of people maybe not living up to hero ideals. Not that they ever could realistically, because they're people. That's kind of the point here.
Or even if you look at it from like a fandom perspective of just like fictitious things, is you see people who just fight on social media. Maybe that's one of the best things of Twitter, and possibly going down in flames, is not having to put up with a lot of those people anymore. But where
am I going to get my entertainment?
Everything's just a fight. Where as soon as you mention you like X thing, fans of Y thing have to start saying, and anything ranging from innocent, just stupid stuff to completely, oh, you're a borderline psychopath for saying something that.
Oh yeah, don't worry, we can bring that into the Discord. We can make sure that transfers over.
No, we're not going to do that. But yeah,
what about in team section?
No, that's no. So no, this was a delightful issue. I think Nightmate is an interesting, fun little addition. I don't want them to lean on it too much, but I can see Taylor bringing him back maybe later on to help out with a situation or something. But fun idea, and definitely feels like Taylor's adding a lot to the Nightwing mythos, and cracking jokes about Dick and Babs, and even the Starfire past, and all this different stuff. It's just it's a sort of heartwarming stuff that just feels like, oh, he loves the character, he gets the character, and we're kind of reaping the fruit. And it's not just obsessed with fitting them into the New 52 anymore, or obsessed with making him function as a sub character to Batman. It's like no, this is very much a Dick focused run. It's about him and who's important to him, as far as like friends and loved ones and all the rest of it goes. So yeah,
this is also very much a fill-in issue.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
I don't mean that in a bad way, because it's still a very good issue, but it is very much okay. We'll pause, take a break from the main story. Okay, kind of just we'll go do this thing. We'll let our artists have a rest, and we'll catch back up next time. And I think outside of going more of the creator-owned route of just taking a break between arcs, or even throwing different teams on for random like 2-3 issue arcs between things, this is about as good as you can get, I think, in big two comics, for having that those breaks kind of worked in.
Yeah, I think a better phrase would probably just be a standalone issue. Just because fill-in issue has a natural negative connotation to it, because we tend to use it more when it's like, oh, it's a fill-in. Like it feels. Because I think the reason why I would distinguish between them is that this feels like better planning from Taylor, that he's accounted for having issues that can take a one issue break for the artist and do something that feels narratively distinct enough, but it still feels like it's adding to the run. It still feels like a good part of the run.
Yeah.
So that's why I would maybe argue against fill-in in that sense, because I think a fill-in feels distinctly more unplanned, and it's just, oh, we need something to fill the slot, as opposed to a writer who's writing a run and understands that there's going to be these natural breaks and accounts for them.
I would not be opposed to them trying. Hey, if you're doing 6 issues, let's say you want to keep one writer and artist as your team for a book, which I'd love to see. So when it collects the eventual omnibus of, let's say, this run, it would have been you could have just Taylor and Redondo and nothing else. In that place, I would be down for DC trying, hey, let's do complete fill-in teams, and not just thrown together last-minute teams, but get teams that have a 1, 2, 3 issue story to tell, and kind of just throw those in between arcs, and let you do 6 issues of your main artist, 2 issues of a different artist and different writer entirely, so it would always feel so separate, so you wouldn't feel like because. This says guest artist, but it's not guest writer. When you get to the eventual collection, this will be included, and it'll always feel a little bit, okay, this isn't part of the main story, because it's not the Redondo story, and Taylor always talked about how this is his and Redondo's book, not just his. So I think it'll be just something, a nice experiment for some of these big publishers to try and see how it works out.
But on that, I would never leave it out. This and any other the books that have had a different artist, I would never leave those issues out.
You absolutely could not, because they are written in a way that they are, I don't want to say essential,
They're
but
part
they
of
are
the
part of the story. They're part of the narrative.
part of the
that is being told.
serialized run.
Absolutely, they are. Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, what are you rating this issue, Nightwing?
I'll probably give it a. I'll give it a straight 8. I don't think it quite is above that. As fun as it is, I think it's just it's a nice round 8.
I'll probably agree with that and give it a straight 8. It's just a good, fun standalone issue that's very sweet. Has some nice ideas in it, and is another good bit of characterization. So very cool. All right, The Flash 788, which is Jeremy Adams writing with Fernando Pasarin on the art. So just me on this one because Matt's not here. So interesting premise here. So Wolf, Warden of Iron Heights, is now the mayor. He's been elected the mayor of Central City, and the premise of this issue is that he has deputized the rogues to help clear up the streets of Central City, which is a great page actually, because the first page is him like talking to whoever he's talking to, and then you get a 2-page spread of just the 5 rogues members standing there and like cold looking at his new badge. Pasarin's art's quite good. Like he really fits I think the characters in this book. But obviously Linda's pregnant again, and they're with Dr. Midnight and Terrific to get checked up, and they're saying, yep, you're pregnant, and this might be why Linda's got powers right now. It may not be, though. We're in uncharted territory. Who knows? But it's all very sweet and stuff. There's a really nice touch here where Wally's not quite realized that the information they've just told him, and like Midnight and Terrific, like they've got speech bubbles, but it's just squiggly lines in it, as if they're just trying to look busy. Because like Midnight's like twiddling his thumbs, Terrific's just sort of looking down at his notepad. But it's just clearly them trying to like, oh, we need to pretend not to be here because this is like a really personal moment. But yeah, there's a couple of fun beats in this though. Wally and Linda are walking down the street talking about like what it was like having babies and what this is going to be like again. And Wally says, well, what kind of a world are we going to raise this kid in? You know, we've got the Great Darkness coming behind door number 1, and behind door number 2, Captain Cole knocking over a jewelry store. And Linda says, come on, he hasn't done that in years. And he goes, no, I'm serious right now. Captain Cole's knocking over a jewelry store, which is happening across the street. Which leads to a really great moment where Wally comes in, takes his freeze gun away from him, and Cole says, nope, I'm here. You let the bad guys get away. I was arresting them. I'm not a bad guy anymore. And he holds up his police badge, and Wally just bursts out laughing and doesn't really believe it. And he's just like, he's bent over, holding his stomach, with hilarious. And then the rogues show up, and they say they're going to arrest the Flash because he's technically the one breaking the law, being a vigilante. So we got a big fight sequence with them and Flash, even though they end up messing up. Linda ends up helping to get Wally out of Dodge, and Wally's going to go and have to like find out how this happened, what's going on, what the hell's Wolf up to. And there's some fun stuff with Wallace babysitting the kids and them jumping about and stuff. So no, it's a interesting time. You see Wolf, interesting thing here is that Wolf actually has some powers right now. He ends up hitting was it the blacksmith, who's kind of like his assistant, and she tries to sort of say no to him because he borrows a bunch of money from the mob to pay for his campaign, and he wants her to go and tell them they're not getting their money back, and she doesn't want to do it, and he sort of like zaps her with like he's got electric powers or something like that, and she's like, wait, since when do you have powers? And he's basically just like, we all have secrets, and mine are mine alone. So obviously it's something they're going to like go into more. This is meant to be like a wait, how did he get those kind of thing. But Wally goes to Heatwave to try and talk to him, because Heatwave had cancer and Wally kind of helped him out. He goes to him as kind of the sympathetic one. But Heatwave was expecting this. The rogues show up. They mention that Wolf not only has some powers now, but he seemingly has cured Heatwave. So he's definitely messing around with something. Whether it's like technology or like supernatural shit, I don't know. But Wolf's making a lot of big plays, and he's using it to get ahead. Another fun action scene here, though, where Captain Cold freezes the rooftop that Wally's running on when he's trying to get away, and he ends up slipping over the edge of the building and falls down to the ground. It's a really fun little sequence, actually, and it's right after he's looked up at the clouds and saw like lightning and stuff, so he's like, oh shit, Weather Wizard's doing his thing, so he kind of has to like try and get away, and then he slips in the ice. There's a nice sequence of events in both the fight scenes that Flash has with the Rogues. It's also nice because I feel like, I don't know if there's been a lot of Flash versus the Rogues in this Wally run until now, so it's kind of nice to have them back. It's a kind of a different context to have them in as well, and it kind of fits in with this general theme of Wolf using a lot of the people who would normally be in Iron Heights to be working for him, which, you know, can only make him look villainous. The end of the issue, though, is that Pied Piper shows up at the end and says, looks like you need a help, or need a hand, Flash. And, yeah, so it's the return of Pied Piper as the cliffhanger. Solid fun time. There's heartwarming moments with Wally and Linda. I think the art's really good with Pasarin. I think he draws a really good set of rogues, and a lot of the expressions and stuff. Between like when the rogues get their badges and their reaction to that, Wally laughing his ass off when he sees that they have a badge. All that stuff is pretty entertaining and just genuinely looks quite good. Some of the action sequences have some really fun segments in them. I think it's a really nice looking comic overall. It's kind of like the best end of like a house style, if you will, where it's not particularly stylish or it stands out, but it's just really nice. And I really like the heavy shadows and inks that are on there. It's very bright and vivid and colorful, but it was not afraid to have the shading and like the face and all that stuff. So no, really good stuff. I'm liking that we're kind of doing like a fresh arc, and we've been building up to Wolf, been up to something where he's running for mayor for a little while now. I'm glad we're away from like, you know, traveling to, you know, Calypso's like Gem World stuff and all that was a while ago. It feels like a proper, yeah, it feels like this book has a lot of continuity now with itself, that it's built up over time, and we're really just having fun now with a lot of the elements that it's set up. So I'm happy to give this yeah, I'd probably go as high as an 8 on this. I'm really enjoying this Flash run the more it's been on. So there we go. That's that. And then next up, Batman Superman World's Finest, issue 9, Mark Waid writing with Dan Mora on the art. So we have Boy Thunder, the Superman sidekick that's been introduced for the last couple issues. I don't know if you have any general thoughts on this arc before this issue. I'm
liking the arc more than I did the Neja stuff overall. Not super keen on Boy Thunder as a character just yet. It feels very much like he's there for the other characters to have a lesson to learn, right? Yeah, as opposed to being a character in his own right. It feels like he's probably going to be dead or gone in some way by the end of the story. Or a villain. Or a villain, yes. Yeah. So, no, obviously Mora's arts here is gorgeous. You know, Batman sneaking up behind, you got this, you know, rat catcher stuff. The rats look great. That page with all the rats, like, on the top panel is phenomenal. Yeah, with them screaming. No, that's good stuff. So it's this idea that Boy Thunder goes a little bit too far, and he has to learn. Although I do, just because I'm on the Joker page, because I'm just going through it as I'm talking. The front cover with Joker saying, you know, oh, a new sidekick, as he's holding a crowbar. I actually think that's quite funny. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I don't know, that appeals to me. So Joker's working with the key. He's got something from the Angler, which has its own little joke in it as well, because he's like, oh, did you get it willingly? Not quite, and like the guy's hands just like dangling coming from off. Yeah. You know, I like Waid's voice for Joker. It's a very, you know, Silver Age animated series style Joker, you know. I mean, it's very much an animated series take on it as well. Yeah. On the, like, I can hear Hamill saying a lot of these lines. And I don't know if part of that is more, it's not in the face, but the way Mora poses the Joker feels very much from that. Like, if you look at, it's right after he's messing with the finger, he's prizing the hand off. It's the panel underneath where he's just, you know, bowing down very slightly. That feels straight out of like animated series Joker. The posing.
Yeah. No. Superman's talking to Barry for some advice on training a superpowered psychic because he has experience in that, which I thought was a nice touch. And they're dealing with stuff, and it turns out that there's these like pirates on this ship, and Superman ends up saying, "No, we can just stay back," because I think, basically implying that he sees that someone else is already dealing with it. And we see Aqualad, and then we see the rest of the Titans, and it's a Titans thing, and David Boy Thunder is there again, and he's joking around with them, and everything's going quite nice until there's one pirate left that takes some shots at Aqualad, and he immediately powers up, and is probably going to completely fry this pirate if Superman didn't step in and sort of uses his stern voice. My favorite thing about this whole issue might actually be Dick whispering, saying, "I know you can hear me, Superman. Don't do this in front of his friends."
It's that, and that's the more serious point. That is obviously the best part.
Yes.
I kind of really love the bit at the very bottom with Dick just shoving Roy, and you just see the arrows come flying out the quiver, just off panel like that.
Well, this follows on nicely from the previous couple of pages where Roy's basically given David all the wrong advice. Where he's like, "No, use your anger, hit harder back." Like, he's giving him all the wrong advice. That's like the opposite of what Superman's been telling him. So having Dick just shove him, it's like, yeah, he's a chump. He deserves it. Basically.
Yeah, like, I think it's interesting because Roy's fine at first, because he just burns the guy's hand, and they're like, "Do you really need to burn him? Can you not just do a flame blast to scare him?" He's like, "Yes, on a ship of oil, that'll go down well." I kind of feel like he made the right choice there. Like, a burnt hand is not excessive, unreasonable force. I don't think. I think Batman on a daily basis does just as bad.
Yeah,
like that's something it'll hurt, but that'll heal. It's not gonna. He's not crippling him for life or anything like that.
But I don't think Superman would. I think Superman would always like burn like the gun, so the gun's too hot to hold, or something like that. It would always be,
probably, yeah.
So that's kind of the difference, I guess. But yeah, but I love Dick sort of doing this because one, I love that it's like Dick's very much the leader of the Teen Titans, and I love this idea that, look, he's been getting on well with us. Don't embarrass him, right? Take him away and like give him the stern talking to that we all know he needs, right? Like the Titans are all very clearly know that he's what talk they're about to go and have, but so I really like that. I thought it was a great character moment for Dick, and it was just an example of like Waid just like he understands these characters like in such a great way. So really loved that. The big revelation from David is that he admits that he is in some way to blame for his parents' demise, that the parents were building a ship in advance and he didn't really believe that it was necessary, so he ended up playing some practical jokes and it ended up destroying the ship, so they only had time to build a small one for him to escape. So he feels responsible for the death of his parents, which I will say this is probably my biggest problem with this issue from an actual writing structural standpoint. I don't like how we don't get Superman's response to any of this. There's no reaction here. It just cuts to a different scene at the end of this. That's probably fair.
Like, I know it gets interrupted, but the way it cuts to, Gotham, it feels really jarring, and it feels like even if there's just a panel of Superman in silence before he can react, and then it interrupts.
I think that's basically all it is one panel of his face. Like, that's all it's missing, because it makes sense that you cut to like the crisis is about to interrupt him. Like, it makes sense to cut to that pretty quickly. It's just one panel of Superman reacting.
Do you know what I think it is? If you go 2 pages in, you can actually see Superman starting to react, and then he's reacting then because he's hearing the stuff in Gotham. I think you need that panel before you cut to Gotham to see what's happening.
Yeah. So basically there's a giant door in Gotham that's just in the middle of the street, right? But it's obviously like a magic door, because when it opens, it's like a portal to the bottom of the Gotham River, so all this water starts flooding the streets. So obviously Batman's already there, Superman is called in, and they're just saving people. But we find out from Joker and Key up top that this is just a distraction, so we don't know what their goal actually is yet. But so some great pages here of the water in the city, the cars floating in the water, Batman's on top of a car. Superman tries to reverse the spread of the water by doing like a vortex in the water on the other side. And then Batman closes the door. I'm not entirely sure why, other than just sort of banging it to make it close, this works. But it is a pretty cool little sequence of like him driving the Batmobile like up and like off a piece of rock or whatever, so he goes flying and just hits the top of the door, which makes it shut. It's a fun sequence, very Hot Wheels-esque.
Yeah, it looks great, and any excuse for Mora to draw a cool action sequence is, I think, the logic as to why this works.
Very possibly. But another little door, little portal door opens just in the last page, and the Joker grabs David through this portal. So they've effectively kidnapped Boy Thunder, and the last page, David's like laughing, as if he's just been dosed with the Joker gas, and that's your cliffhanger for next time.
I actually really like how terrifying Joker's looks. Just it's when you can just see the smile in the silhouette. That's a great little panel.
Oh yeah, I mean it looks great throughout. Like I don't think there's a bad panel in the whole book.
No.
The action's great, the expressions are great, the coloring's fantastic, and you have just these wonderful scenarios where you get to have these big flooding the streets moments, or whatever the other panels might be. There's a nice variety of different scenarios and locations to be in.
Yeah.
So it's all very good. Yeah. You've got the dark and spooky opening with all the rats, which looks great. So yeah, very little to complain about. I'm enjoying the arc, and I'm like David himself might feel like a guest star for the sake of having the story, but I do think all these other characters are having really good moments in how they handle them.
Yes.
And that's kind of where the meat of it is. So, because
I think I'm enjoying it more than the first arc so far.
Yeah.
Not that I thought the first arc was terrible by any means.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So, all right, what are you giving World's Finest issue 9?
I'm probably going to give it an 8. I don't think it's quite at the 8.5, but it's close.
Yeah. I think I will go the 8.5. I think I'm willing to go up there. I think the great character moments and then the spectacular art just kind of push it up there for me. So
there
we go. It's World's Finest issue 9. Stargirl, The Lost Children, issue 1. So this is the 6-issue mini that is going alongside the actual JSA book that's starting. Is that this month or next month? Whenever that's starting. So yeah, we got Geoff Johns writing and Todd Nauck on the art. So there is a reference in this, the editor's note about the spring break special, which I'm sure did lead into this well enough, but luckily it doesn't really matter that much. I think it reads quite well, even if you don't remember a single thing about it. it sets up things well enough in the book that you just get what's going on. The only thing need to know is that Courtney and Red Arrow are looking for this golden age sidekick hero named Wings. So there you go. That's all you need to know. But yeah, so this is an interesting story. You got some old school looking art talking about how what Dynamite Dan, who was the sidekick to TNT, was the first like sidekick to a hero.
Have their mentor die.
Have their mentor die. That was the specific thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't the first sidekick, but it was the first one to be quote unquote orphaned.
Yeah, I liked a lot of this first scene actually. The goofy mask that the bank robbers were wearing felt very old school, so it was a nice little touch.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of cool. The action, the old school 1930s style cars, like all of it just looked really nice and kind of fit the theme of what it was going for. It reminded me of like when you're reading Watchmen and you get like the flashbacks or whatever to the Golden Age Minutemen stuff kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I see where you're going with.
So yeah, but we get this, the older version. This guy's all grown up now. He's an old man. 6 months ago, and he's looking into like disappearance. We get more context for this later when the girls go to his place. But that's kind of like who we're introduced to. But then we get Courtney, and we get her just. And there's a nice page. This is a really good page actually. They're just kind of like, okay, if you don't know who Stargirl is, this is the first time you're reading Stargirl. Here's like a brief history.
Yeah, it's a bit dense. There's a lot of text on this one page, but I will forgive it as being a necessary evil on issue 1 of a miniseries.
Yeah, I get the reason for it. But then from there on, you get right into kind of there's actually a joke here that I really liked where Courtney's mom's complaining that the only thing she's washed in the last month was her costume. and she mentions that she got dirty fighting Grundy, and she goes, "When did you fight Solomon Grundy?" And she's like, "A Monday."
Monday.
I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah. It's, like, it's always on a Monday.
I got a kick out of that, but yeah. So she's been told basically, you need to do better in school. You've been doing terrible. Stop hanging around with Emmy. And I like that Emmy's in this because it's like, oh, we've not seen Emmy too much in a while.
Yeah, they make a nice pairing.
But of course, Emmy shows up at her window that night and says, "No, we have to go look for Wings." Even though Pat's like adamant, Wings is dead. He died during this big fight years ago. He's been buried and everything. Come on, like, leave this alone. But Emmy shows up and says, "No, let's go. Come on. We're like crime fighters and shit. Let's go do this." She complains about Oliver a little bit, which was, nice callback to that early Rebirth run that we all liked from Green Arrow.
Yep.
But yeah, of course she's talked into it, and they go. We get a title page with the credits here about 2/3 through the issue. It's a really weird place, but I guess it's just where it fit.
Almost bang on halfway, actually.
Was it bang on halfway? Oh, fair enough.
Almost.
It felt
just over.
It felt later than that, but that's fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they go to this, Dynamite Dan's house and find all of his old photos. And Courtney notes, wait a minute, like, who are all these characters? Like, all these sidekicks that we're talking about here. I know everything about this era because I'm obsessed with it. I took over.
She's a nerd.
Yeah, it's Sylvester Pembleton stuff. And it's like, yeah, but I know none of these characters. Like, you're mentioning your Pitcher and like the son of Alan Grant, Jay Garrick, Alan Grant's Jurassic Park character. I don't know why my mind went there. So but all these other new characters that are getting introduced for this for the purpose of this, that have been erased somehow from history, that they're going to be looking into. So yeah. So yeah, we get them looking into this, and it's like, okay, clearly there was research done by Dynamite Dan that's led to this island in the water, and they're like, shit, we have to go there. But before they leave, they get this weird instance where someone's talking over the radio. Someone's talking to Danny, who's the Dynamite Dan. It's like it's coming through the static, and they're not quite sure what it is, and then the radio explodes. So it's like, okay, there's like a sort of mystery element going on here.
Pretty extreme.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So why not? Just little exploding radios. It's so casual.
Yeah, I love how Emmy mentions the Arrow Cave, and Courtney's like, "Wait, what?"
But yeah. But still, they just need to rename it.
Yeah.
I hate Arrow Cave. Every time I see it, I'm like, it's stupid. Call it the Quiver.
The Quiver, yeah, it's way better. Makes more sense. So yeah, we see that Dynamite Dan, old age Dynamite Dan, did go out here, and he's on a boat. It looks like he's going towards Skull Island. That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, I can see it.
Because he's like, because it's the island, right? And you get all this like rough water in front of all these craggy rocks. It just looks very much like Skull Island.
It reminds me of the first of the recent Tomb Raider games, like the start of that.
Oh sure, yeah.
Or that storm on the boat, with the shipwreck on this island. It's a very similar setting again.
Yeah, so obviously the ship meets some, rough water. He gets flipped over. The ship's filling with water. He dives for his ring, which is the ring that him and his superhero buddy had when they were younger. And he gets washed ashore. He lands on the beach, and he looks down at his hand. He's like, "Wait, my hand looks different." And then the big twist at the end of this issue is that he's back to being the age he was when he was the sidekick. But you hear a voice off panel say, "You're cursed. You shouldn't have come back here, Mr. Dunbar." So, obviously there's going to be stuff.
And then there's a scream in the lightning. As the
of course, yes. Which is probably his, but,
That's definitely the implication.
Yeah. So, very curious. I will say, between this and the Golden Age, I don't know how you felt about that yet, but I quite liked it. It felt, it's like he's doing a GSA story in the style of the Doomsday Clock. Not as good as Doomsday Clock. Well, it's not yet, anyway.
I did read it, obviously, because I was annoyed at you for making me read it. Not making me read it, but making me read it before this.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine.
Why am I surprised?
Again, I've been very cynical about John's coming back to JSA, and to me, it felt like it was very much a... So the thing we always talk about with JSA and especially John's run is the legacy angle, and obviously legacy has been a big part of John's kind of stuff, especially with Rebirth onwards of like, hey, let's bring it all back. It felt very much like a, hey, you like legacy? I got a story about legacy. And to an extent, this I have a similar feeling about this as well, where with the way it's looking at the sidekicks, and the opening of this, is talking about how we didn't think about legacy. We were just sidekicks. So, we didn't think about legacy until after me, because I was the first one that was orphaned. It feels a little bit one note to me right now.
No, it's kind of what I like about it, is I felt that voice again. It has been so long since we've had that voice that I felt a lot out of this as I was reading it. I enjoyed discovering more about these characters and the sort of the curiosity of our main two leads who are looking into it.
I like the interactions between Courtney and Emmy. I do like those two quite a lot. I think they play off each other well, and I would like more of those.
I assume you're going to get a lot more over the course of this 6 issues.
I hope so, yeah. But I mean long term, not just for these 6 issues.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's something planned for after this in the JSA book. If John's is starting a line of things, then maybe, you'll get a different mini or two afterwards. But I enjoyed this issue, and I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as the Golden Age one shot. So, but that's okay. Not all have to be equal or anything like that. But I think I like the sense of mystery. I like this sense of again, the mischief of Courtney getting up to stuff, even though it's pretty much just Courtney's MO at this point. Like, she's not making it back for her classes the next day, even though she promised. Of course she's not. She's getting on a boat. She's going to an island.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, I don't believe that for a second. But I think, maybe this thematic will tie in with her as the story goes on about devoting herself just to being the superhero as opposed to, like, making sure, like, because, I mean, Dynamite Dan here, it looks like he lived a pretty sad life because he was still kind of just focused on who he used to be as the sidekick, as opposed to, being happy in other ways. So, yeah. And Nara's pretty good, I think, for the most part. Like I say, I really like the old school style that's in the sort of the flashback section for the Golden Age stuff. And I think
a lot of that is down to the strong coloring.
That's fair.
Because I think the art is, I wouldn't say the pencils, they're still good. They're very good in both sections. I don't think the pencils are that drastically different section to section, though. I think it's mainly the kind of newspaper style colors kind of that's giving it that feeling and doing a great job with it.
Yeah. I do think the the faces are very expressive. I think they're viewing a little anime at times, but nothing that's too distressing to me.
Yeah.
Courtney has those big eyes sometimes that I kind of associate with the with anime.
I would not have. The only character at any point in this I feel looks even remotely anime would be her mum. There's like 1 or 2 panels, where in that conversation in the kitchen at the start, that she looks a bit anime. I never felt it with Courtney, despite the bigger eyes.
Fair enough. So yeah, no, I had a good time. I'm definitely in for the book. I mean, I was hoping I would be. I remember reading that Stargirl Spring Break. I don't really remember what was in the book, but I remember reading that and thinking it felt weird. And obviously, it was setting up more to come. But it was like, when's that going to hit? And clearly, now is the time.
We were expecting it sooner than this, I think.
Yeah, but I think now that I get to settle in, knowing that we're getting a full miniseries, and it feels like there's a full story to tell. Like, I enjoyed this a lot more than I did that. Certainly.
It's a lot easier to get invested in something that's not just a. There is more to come, presumably next month, not just at some ethereal point in the future. That maybe next month, maybe next year.
They've been solicited for the next 3 months, so we expect them. So
I wouldn't be surprised if they're all finished, and maybe if they insisted that they wouldn't publish it until it was all done. Maybe because of John's schedule.
Maybe because of Doomsday Clock, they waited till it was all finished. Very possibly.
Yeah, Doomsday Clock, and obviously he had some problems on the Shazam book as well. After Doomsday Clock, I think it was.
I think it overlapped, but yeah, it was.
Yeah.
What's that? Again, I do think his schedule is changing dramatically because of the show he's running being cancelled. But obviously that's only just happened now, and he was probably already writing this before, so there's a good chance that he did write all of it. But I wouldn't be surprised that if that show being cancelled ends up meaning that he ends up having more comic projects after these.
It's very possible, yeah.
So we'll see. But no, this was a good first issue, and I liked having that voice back again. It felt like there was this sort of this aura of like really respecting history, even though the history here is new because it's these new characters that have been kind of erased, seemingly. There's still kind of that magic to like discovering them. I think that Johns is very good at doing, even though they're not actual legacy characters. So I enjoyed hearing that voice again, which was nice. All right, what are you rating Stargirl: The Lost Children issue 1?
Ooh, I'm gonna give it a 6. I think it's okay. It's pretty decent. I like Courtney and Emmy together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too big on the overall plot so far. It feels a little bit cynical about that, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, the cliffhanger's quite interesting. You'll see what happens with this island. All right. Oh, and I'll give it a straight 8 for me. I quite enjoyed it. So, I've had a pretty good week so far, in all honesty. Even though this was John's, I still thought there was a chance it would be disappointing, and I wasn't expecting One Bad Day to be as good this time, but both of them hitting respectable levels left me feeling quite good. Yeah. All right, GCPD, The Blue Wall, issue 2, John Ridley writing with Stefano Raffaele on the art. So this is the story following 3 rookie cops in Gotham who just graduated the academy, and a bit of Renee Montoya as well as the commissioner. First issue focused mainly on Park, who was heralded a hero for not shooting someone who didn't deserve it, but then it turned out by the end it was revealed to everyone that she just kind of choked because she's presented with a situation where she probably should take the shot and still doesn't, and a civilian gets hurt because of it. Although this issue focuses a bit more on Wells, who's the parole officer of the 3, and some of his happenings, although we get a little bit of all of them, but she was definitely the focus of issue 1. Wells is definitely more the focus of issue 2.
I would expect we rotate through to the next one after.
Yeah, I would expect, the third guy, whose name is Danny.
Something you'll learn in issue 3.
It's Danny.
Yeah, okay.
I had a page up to help, to be fair, but it's hard to remember normal people names in comic books.
It is. You get there eventually.
Yeah, all right. So since you read this, I assume you also liked issue 1.
I did. I didn't really know what to expect, and I've got a history of not loving Ridley's books. Not hating them, but not loving them for the most part. So I was a bit, cautious going in, but I thought, I'll try it. I was not expecting it to be a spiritual successor to Gotham Central, which is, for all intents and purposes, what it is. I mean, like I say, even referenced it directly continuity-wise.
It references it, with Montoya. I would say
more just the feeling of it following the cops and the day-to-day stuff. This is a slightly different angle on following their first month on the job. But
yeah, I'd say it feels distinct enough because it's following 3 brand new cops, and it's them having their noble intentions kind of stamped out of them by the system and
it is, but
the harsh realities.
It very much feels like this could have been a 6-issue mini sequel to Gotham Central, focusing on some new cops in the department. Like if this had been branded Gotham Central, then something to do with Gotham Central, the rookies, for example. I don't think you'd have thought twice about it.
No, probably not. But at the same time, I understand why it is something different now, and I think it does have that core focus, that kind of Serpico style. We have these new cops who want to do the best that they can do, but they all immediately get hit with these brick walls of like, here's the harsh reality of dealing with certain people. Because in this case, you've got both the like how difficult it is dealing with certain people that this parole officer Wells is dealing with, because the guy who ended up committing the crime at the end of the first issue was one of his parolees, and that's the one who Park didn't shoot at the end of the issue. So he feels this guilt because he tried to say he believed in him and gave him all these pep talks, and he still ended up doing this, which, clouds him enough that even though he doesn't want to be someone who just like intimidates and like yells at the next guy, he ends up kind of doing it at an inopportune moment, because he's been told again by his superior that no, the only thing these people understand is fear. So you've got to yell at them. You've got to less carrot, more stick,
and play it by the book. Because the guy's talking about how he's heard these things, and he's like, you can't be in contact with any of them. I'll pretend I didn't hear it this one time, but you tell me that again, and I'm gonna take you in. Essentially, he's playing it really strict. Yeah,
and the sad part of it is that the scene in question, this parolee that he's talking to, was actually coming to him thinking he could speak to him like a human being because he had been so nice before, and then this like conversation and being like barked at by him for potentially making this mistake is what leads him to doing what he does, which is effectively suicide by because I know some people say suicide by cops by like showing up with a gun and because they know they'll get shot for it. This was kind of like that, but with a guy instead.
He actively tips off his old gang, the cops about his old gang pulling this robbery.
But he knows that they'll know it was him, so they'll come and kill him. And he sort of does
he doesn't
that.
show up, obviously, so he's not there to get caught. So obviously they're going to assume it was him.
Yeah, and he's taking out a life insurance to set up his girlfriend for life, because it's the only way he feels he can make money.
Very heavily pregnant girlfriend.
Yes. So, it's hitting at a lot of things here. It's hitting at the system, the idea. It's brought up multiple times in this issue that people who are on parole have trouble getting jobs because people typically don't want to hire ex-cons because they don't see them as trustworthy, which is understandable to a point. You understand why people might naturally feel that way, but it's obviously a problem because, well, they have to do something, and if they don't get a job, then they might eventually feel the need to turn back to crime because the straight and narrow is not working for them. And that was something I noticed as well, is when Wells was over at his house the first time when he's been nicer to him, he keeps saying, I believe in you, you just have to work hard at it. He never actually offers any specific bits of advice. He just sort of generally says, it'll work out eventually, you just have to keep at it. I think at this point, this guy needs like a concrete idea, like give him something that he can go do right now to make him feel active.
But this is, I think, interesting, where this is him showing how green he is at the job, where it's not a case of him just rolling out the platitudes. He doesn't have any contacts yet. He doesn't have any specific advice that he can give because he's not he's not been through any of this yet. He's not figured out where, like, I'm assuming later in the career they know, all right, which companies will have policies that hire ex-cons, because a lot of them do. But he probably doesn't have a list yet of which ones does he know treats them well.
Yeah. It was something that stuck out to me because it was obviously very well intentioned, but I'm like, you're not really giving this guy any really concrete options here, other than just keep at it.
Yeah, just stick with it, keep going.
Yeah. So I thought that was an interest. So it was kind of analyzing like even his mistakes before he's given the bad advice from the other cop, which leads to this nasty outcome by the end. And obviously at the same time you have Park, who's feeling diminished and feeling like she's been kind of chewed up, and like this is the thing, they question, because they have this sort of running thing that I'm sure is going to be something we do in every issue, which is the three of them getting together at the diner and like complaining about the problems. That's clearly going to be a running thing, and I really like it as a storytelling device. But one of the others basically say, yeah, but what if Montoya's just part of the machine, and like you respect her and all that, but she's kind of throwing you under the bus here and not sticking up for you. But we actually see in Montoya's scenes that she does kind of say, hey, this is also on us for like glorifying her and putting her in front of the press, and we never asked her because we didn't want to know why she didn't take that shot. So it kind of does this thing where it's analyzing the problems with the system, the mistakes that you can make when you're new to it, but then why things get worse because the people who are jaded, who are in the system, just tell you to do it this way because that's the way that's always worked for them because they don't care anymore. And it's a really interesting look at what's wrong with the system.
I think it's interesting, you said there, this is what works for them. I think that's not what Montoya did, though, because she didn't ask the question, but it's because she's like, she talks about how, she should have asked that question. She kind of just didn't think about it because it was great. Here's an example of what we're doing differently. It's not a case of being entrenched in the system of what's working for them. It's a case of, this is good. This is different. We can use this. It's attempting to do something differently, but not actually looking into how it works, and not actually thinking through the details. It's more just having an idea and running with it. And when she's at the top, that's just as dangerous as just sticking to the same thing as always.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting looking at all this. Obviously, it's setting up that Two-Face is behind the gang thing that was happening, and that obviously, like,
very personal for Montoya.
Yeah, Montoya, that's why it references in the editor's note, what happened with Two-Face. And she's still freaking out. I actually really like the scene with her and her brother, and her brother's wife, I assume, was the other character in the scene.
Giving her the goldfish?
Yeah, saying that it's therapeutic and all that. You can get a lot of affection from a goldfish, which I don't believe. I'm with Montoya on this. Yeah. That goldfish barely knows you exist. I'm just I'm just going to say it. So I think those personal touch, I think that's really neat, because obviously having Montoya be the person in charge, I think naturally, in a story where it'd be very easy to villainize anyone who's not our three rookie cops, because they're the ones who want to do good and change things, it'd be very easy to villainize anyone up the chain. But by having Montoya be the one at the top of the chain, which is obviously nicely in continuity because she is the commissioner right now, is that we already naturally like her. We naturally care about Montoya because she's an established character. And obviously it reaffirms that by showing that she does have doubts, that she is struggling with, being a recovering alcoholic and dealing with her past with Two-Face and struggling with these decisions she's making and why she made a mistake and not asking the question that she should have asked when Park didn't take the shot, and so on and so on. But it naturally means that, okay, we have someone at the top that we can also sympathize with, and we can sort of see from both ends of the spectrum why this system's not working and where these mistakes are happening and why things are falling through. So, it's very interesting. Obviously, in the third rookie cop, he's dealing with racism, particularly ignorant racism, because they keep talking, they're cracking jokes about his family being illegal immigrants, and he's like, I'm Puerto Rican, which is part of the US. Like, they're not like, like they were already citizens.
Either don't know or don't care.
Yeah.
Or both.
So you've got that kind of at play, and he's got a scene with his parents where they're like, yeah, we kind of try to shelter you as best we could so you didn't have to suffer the racism, but maybe we sheltered you too much because you're not really taking to heart, like, the fact
you're just kind of defending them a little bit, like, not defending them saying that this is fine, this is all good, but more just this is what they do, this is how they are, like, just accepting that it's institutionalized and thinking that it's okay.
Yeah, basically just sugarcoating the status quo and, like, reaffirming it by not standing against it, kind of thing. And obviously you understand why that's hard, because if he stands up against it, then he's the asshole to them for causing a ruckus and not playing by their rules. Yeah. And he'll be villainized for that amongst everyone else. Which, in a way, makes you think back to, like, even Batman Year One, and, like, Gordon being the one cop who wanted to do things properly, and
doesn't last long.
No.
Even for Gordon.
So, but that's, in this case, though, we have, like, a whole generation potentially of new cops that maybe want to do better and change the system, and maybe that's Montoya, who has paved the way by being this better cop her entire career in a time that when it was rougher and harder to do so. Maybe she'll realize she has some young people under her, command that can help her forge whatever this new path, which might be the ultimate end goal of the book, is kind of like that realization. But yeah, so I do like what this is hitting, though, with all these characters and, like, the different aspects of law enforcement they're kind of hitting on, and, like, where these different parts of the system, like Park's dealing with the idea of shooting suspects, and the idea that the other cops are like, no, just shoot and don't worry about it. We'll deal later if it was the right choice or not. Yeah. Shoot first, ask questions later, kind of thing. And then the parole officer is a very specific, different way of looking at the after someone's been through the system. So. Yeah.
But even, like, in the earlier part of his story in this issue, the kind of the one, like, training him, kind of, like, assessing how he's doing. Yeah. They come out of that first meeting with the couple, and he's like, nah, you're being too nice. You got to do it this way. This is the only way that works. And again, it's showing how the system is, in place already, and where those problems are.
Yeah, and he's quite happy to say "told you so" and things like that, because the other guy ended up shooting someone. There's just a lot of that stuff. And I want to point out as well the scene where the sort of the other parolee who sort of ratted in on his and I hate using that word because I don't see it as ratting, like, but you know, he turned his the gang in, and he waits for this, you know, up in the park bench for like the guy to come and get him. Like, I think that's a really well handled page. Like the way it sort of just the gun's behind his head, and then you get the blam, and then the wide shot at the bottom panel. I think it's just paced really well. It's all good stuff. So no, it's really well told. It's really good drama, and much like a lot of these like less superhero style books, the art has to be good with faces, otherwise it's going to be a nightmare dealing with who's who. Part of that, of course, they were smart to make all three of these new characters different, and obviously not only the different sexes but the different races and things like that, to make them very distinct from each other. So that's very good for a quick recognition, but also just, you know, a lot of this is like it's a talky drama effectively. There's a little bit of action here or there, but it's mainly a talky drama, so it has to.
There's not much action.
Yeah, so it has to do that well, and it does. I do think the art here from Raphael is very good, and it was very good in the first issue as well.
It is. I don't think it's like my favorite art, but it doesn't do anything bad. It's very good. It just doesn't pop in the same way that some other artists do, at least for me.
No, that's fair. Like, I'm not holding it up to, like, I would say the art in Gotham Central is better, but you know, that's not.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, it's good art. It really is. It's doing its job. I just think it ends up feeling, at least I like, you know, let's look at my books this week. I'm not going to spoil things, but this is probably not going to be in the conversation for my top art of the week.
Oh, okay. Well, this has been a great mini so far, 2 issues in. I'm actively excited for it. It's definitely my favourite thing that Ridley, and I've liked a couple of things Ridley's done, but this is my favourite thing Ridley's written so far.
Yeah, I think it is of mine as well.
Yeah, really good stuff. All right, what are you giving the GCPD, The Blue Wall, issue 2?
Ooh, I will give this the 8.5. I'll break that out at last.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to give that to this as well. So yeah, 8.5 for me. Really good stuff. All right. DCeased, War of the Undead Gods, issue 4, Tom Taylor writing, Trevor Hairsine on the art. So obviously we're building, you know, the undead army are making their way through the universe, and this issue largely revolves around some of our heroes going to meet with the Guardians to talk about how to deal with this. Although we start off with Alfred having a nightmare again about killing his sons and regretting it because now there's a cure for the zombie virus. So it's just this, you know, it's him shooting the 3 of them, screaming out in pain, and then waking up. And we find out that he is now in a relationship with Leslie Tompkins, who's there.
And everyone's very happy for them.
Yeah, she's there to comfort him. She's trying to tell him it's not his fault. And there's a little bit here that I quite liked about how, you know, like, you helped Bruce all those years being Batman, and maybe the reason why you were so easily reserved and sort of nice about everything is because you knew you were helping him go out and, like, you know, take out rage on others. So you didn't necessarily have to, like, you know, you had like this weird, like, sort of like avenue for your anger to go, right? You got to, like, almost delegate your anger through Batman.
A little bit, yeah. Because he was obviously directly involved. He wasn't out there punching, but he was
helping,
actively involved. Yeah.
So Damien comes by, and like Leslie tries to lie about why she's there, and he's just
he's like, don't bother.
Yeah. He's a detective and all that. But they both say they've got a bit too much of Batman in them. Him being his detective self, Alfred wanting to get involved, and Damien saying no, stay back. But it's all very sweet. It's a really nice scene. It's another example of Taylor using this alternate version of these characters to have sweet moments and kind of play with them. Even like John realizing that Alfred and Leslie's together to Damien as they're flying off to meet the Guardians is really fun. But anyway, we get an example of one of the planets that have been attacked by the undead gods, one that's evacuated.
Yeah, it's just a little action sequence, essentially. Just an excuse to have some punching.
a little note on this though. So it's the planet Almerac, and the first narration panel here says, "Almericans are born for war."
Almeracians.
Almeracians, whatever you'd say. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a made up word. I don't know how you say it.
You say it like it's read. You missed out letters.
Almeracians. Anyway, the reason why I'm saying it wrong is because when I glanced at it, I read Americans, and the panel still, in the narration box still made sense.
Everything works, yeah. As a species, you know, they saw battle and conquest.
Yeah, because if you replace it with Americans, it's Americans are born for war. All their greatest advances are in military of nature. I'm like, yeah. So I was like, wait, did I read that right? And I went back and went, oh no, it says alien planet.
I don't think that's an accident.
Probably not. Yeah. But I misread it as Americans first, and it made sense, and it took me a minute to realize, wait, why are they talking about Americans? Oh, because they're not. They're talking about this. Anyway, so yeah, so two of them stay back to fight, but they evacuate the planet. So not a lot of death in this case. But it's a fun action sequence. You get to see Darkseid in his big Sinestro gear, all the rest of it. But the main part of the issue is really the meeting with the Guardians, and the Guardians deciding that they need to just kill all the planets that have been infected, which of course our main characters are all like, no, wait, they can be saved. Superman especially is like, no, like there's a cure for this now. And
yep.
The Guardians sort of like square up to Superman, and like, you know, you got Cassandra and Mary Marvel with their lightning powers like standing behind them. Basically, everything that keeps like the conflict kind of rising. Kyle tries to calm it down, but everyone's getting more heated to the point where the Guardians are even like, we're going to even like imprison Superman here whilst we go and like kill these planets. And Superman punches through the Green Lantern bubble and hits the Guardian in the face, which is a good panel.
I love this as being one of the funniest references as well, because this, you know, on the same page you have a guy saying, you know, one punch. He knocked out a Guardian with one punch. That is the exact dialogue, obviously changed very slightly, but when Batman punched Guy, because he knocked him out with one punch, and even the actual panel of the punch itself, the side-on shot and the fist coming in, that's exactly how that was drawn. So it's a very intentional homage, which made me laugh a lot.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And then, you know, so this all breaks out, and then you see Ares is watching, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. This is why they're so quick to start throwing punches. This D-bag
was involved.
Yeah, so basically, I think it's Damien who like is like, wait, we're not in control of this, and he notices Ares, and he's like, stop this right now. And then the end of the issue is Mixabitalik shows up, and he's here. So
yeah, always fun.
We'll see how that goes. I mean, this was a solid issue. I liked all the Alfred stuff at the start was really sweet and great. They're building up this impending doom of Darkseid and the Undead army coming through, you know, the universe, and I liked the big confrontation with the Guardians. It
read super quick.
I think the one fault that all of the Undead stuff, or sorry, all the DCeased stuff has had, is that none of it's been as good as that mini, the Unkillables.
Yeah.
That's the one problem it's had. It's always been very pleasant. There's always been good moments. It's always enjoyable to read. But I would say that the art's never been as good as that many, and that the atmosphere has never been quite as good as that many. Because, you know,
it's always been like fun. Like, this is still fun.
Yeah.
I'm still having a great time with this.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But man, it doesn't even come close to Unkillables.
I don't think any single moment of this entire book. It says I had a lot of good moments throughout the main parts of it,
including one punch.
Yeah. I don't think any moment is going to match that moment where you realize Mary Marvel's on that bus.
That's a damn good moment.
Because it was perfect. It came out of nowhere. It was great. And that was a mini full of great moments. So yeah. But no, still good. Still really enjoyable. But you know, if we're skipping to the rating, it's a fine 7. I had good fun. It read quick. I like what it's building to.
Yeah, I'll probably give it a 7.5. But
yeah,
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it's in roughly the same place.
So yeah, there you go. This the Sea Sword of the Undead Gods, issue 4. So we're halfway through the series. So every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can.
Do you not read Black Adam?
No, I never listed it earlier either.
Oh, did you not? Okay.
Maybe if you listened when I listed the books at the start of the show.
Do you think I listen to you?
Well, you can't be mad at me for not expecting it to pop up here because I never told you it was going to be here.
I'm very confused how I counted the right amount of books.
Clearly, you can't count. Is the solution to that?
Yeah.
Well, in that
Yeah.
case, you've got 4 Connor books in a row on his own to listen to.
Yeah.
So good luck, everyone. Get your pillow out.
Oh, thanks. Have you been reading Black Adam?
I read the first 2 issues, I think. Maybe. What issue are we on? What one's this?
This is 6.
I read maybe the first 3. And I was good with it at that point.
No, yeah, fair enough. I've been really digging it. I'll give it just a brief overview of this issue. This is we've got Eddie Barrows on art at the minute, so it looks pretty great because what this issue is Black Adam versus Batman.
Ooh.
Yeah, which looks great. Batman. There's a page like right at the start where they're like facing off in the rain and the shadows, and it looks visually like the Batman v Superman face off. You know, like the in the rain in the city. You know, Batman in the big chunky armor. It's very much that page, but except it works because it's Black Adam, and that's what they're supposed to be doing. And yeah, that's characters who are supposed to be facing off. I was a bit confused at first because the last issue ended with Black Adam being kind of like captured, and he'd been like given like aphasia, so he couldn't say Shazam, so he couldn't transform. It becomes clear as it goes on that he's actually in like a virtual world, which Batman has created, and there's some limitations, like, you know, Black Adam can't fly in here, so it keeps him contained. Lots of great fights, and that is the bulk of this issue is great fighting stuff. There is almost none of I don't think there's any of you know, the other character whose name I'm actually forgetting, but you know, White Adam. But this is just all Black Adam and Batman, which turns out to not be Batman. At the very end, Black comes out in the real world. He phones Bruce and he's like, "F you, I'm coming for you. What the hell do you think you're doing? We're supposed to be teammates. You know, all right, I got your message. Time for you to get mine." And Bruce is like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, you got to explain what's going on." And we actually see it's been Martian Manhunter doing it all. He's been, you know, shapeshifted. But that was a fun reveal, and the reveal is Martian has been assessing Black Adam's like his fitness to be on the Justice League anymore, following on from an incident where he kind of killed a fighter pilot because the fighter pilot wouldn't stand down, and Black Adam just made him fly into him, and he blew up. It was a whole thing last issue, and this is kind of following on from that. And it's a lot of it is about how for Black Adam, he's still constantly like, you guys have to stop interfering in my country. You guys have to stop interfering in the Middle East. You can't just overthrow me, install a regime, and just think that everything will work out great, because it never does. Why won't you learn? And they're all consistently like, yeah, but you're a dictator, Adam, so screw you. And they're very much black and white about it, but Black Adam's trying to have some nuance. And it's leading for some really interesting kind of confrontations between him and his, well, at this point, you know, his fellow teammates on the Justice League. And it's making it, you know, Priest taking a really interesting look at this, and seeing, you know, how these varying ideologies are beginning to clash, and how, you know, it wasn't a long-term situation, him being on the league with them, because he is so different. You know, obviously he's been villainous, but even when he's not being actively villainous, he just has such a different moral ideology to them that of course they were going to clash.
Yeah, I can't say I'm shocked at that, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Art in this issue was fantastic, though. This is Barrows at his best. Lots of really heavy shadows, which works for Batman. You know, it's really moody and atmospheric. There's a lot of stuff in the rain. You know, every page looks great. No, it's a really great issue. I'm really enjoying this book. I was surprised you dropped it. I thought this is kind of one of the consistently has been one of the best books that have been published so far for me every month. When it's one of the ones I've been relatively up to date on. I only had one issue to catch up on for this week, as opposed to some other ones where I had to read like I don't know, War of the Undead Gods. I had to read 3 issues.
So you hadn't even started that then?
No, I did. I'd read 1 issue. That was issue 4 we just did.
No, I think you had to read 3 issues plus the
No,
one.
3 issues including the new one. Whereas this one I only had to read, 1 issue before this one. But no, this is a great book. This is like a pretty give it an 8.5. Really enjoying it.
All right, cool. Well, every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can make myself Connor read a book at one of the higher tiers. Connor, because he's not been on many episodes recently, he did a few books last month, but he was like 2 months behind at that point, so I have no idea.
I've worked out. I know how much I've got to do.
Okay. Well, whatever, Connor's keeping track apparently. But he's got 3 that he's going to talk about today. Starting off with Harley Quinn issue 17.
Yep. Phillips and Rosmo, which is the last Rosmo issue. So, obviously after this, there's just more Tim Drake Robin, which... More on that in a minute. But, yeah, it's weird, this issue. So this is the end of the stuff with Verdict, which I'm finally learning is the name of that villain, that it really telegraphed was going to be the villain. And this is the end of the stuff with Rosmo, and barring the last page of this issue, it treats it like it's the end of the book. Like, if you didn't know any better, this could be the end of the run. And I kind of, in some ways, appreciate that Phillips has done that, because it has been... Obviously, Rosmo's not been on every issue, but he's been on the vast majority. And this does make it feel like it has been equally Rosmo's book by feeling like it's an ending. It's not just the end of an arc. This felt like a definitive ending of a book where you could have ended it here. And obviously it's Harley, so it'll just keep going because sales. But if it had ended here, it would have felt like a natural ending. Which it's interesting because obviously there's more of it next month. With the same writer, but it makes it feel like maybe it's the start of a second run from the writer with a different artist, which I think is an interesting angle to take on it. So credit for that, because I actually I like the way that even if I don't like this artist, I like the way it makes the artist feel relevant and important, and it's like equally part of their run as much as it is the writer's run. It is their book. For better or worse. It's kind of the same thing we were talking about with Nightwing, with the guest artist, and that being very much Redondo's book as much as it is Taylor's. This definitely feels like it's been Rosmo's book as much as it's been Phillips. Which is, been shit for me, but it's still deserving of feeling like it's theirs. With any artist that's on the book for the majority of it. Anyway, like half this issue, well, no, not half. The first section of this issue is a boxing match inside Harley's head between her and Verdict. She's kind of getting coached by Wildcat, as it goes. It's fine. It's one of the few places in the issue where Rosmo's kind of wavy panel layout kind of works because it is a dream sequence, so it makes sense to it for it to feel a bit off kilter. As opposed to later in the issue where things just are slanted at angles for the sake of them not being just in boxes. I don't know. It's a weird thing that Rosmo has that I really don't like. But the rest of the issue is, Batwoman and Harley are teamed up. Kevin's still there, and they're going after Sam, who has got City Hall hostage, and she's causing trouble, and they have to stop her. Yeah, and in short, they do. It comes down to Kevin has to do a lot of saving the day because obviously he's been a big part of this book, and he's been the one in a relationship with Sam. So it's him getting a lot of the moments to kind of stop her and make sure that, you know, she doesn't win. Harley gets to hit her. She did want to hit her with a baseball bat, but just punches her in the end. But yeah, then there's some, like, you know, like a few pages of wrap up where it's like, oh no, look, Harley giving Kevin this pep talk and talking about how, oh, you know, Gotham's gonna keep going. I'll keep clowning. You know, I did something good today. I did it my way, and this is where it really feels like the end of a book, which I thought was a really interesting angle. And then there's a one-page epilogue, which does actually set up the rest of what's coming up next. But like I said, this could, you know, you cut off this one page and the run's over. But the epilogue page is as Sam is being transported to whichever prison. The truck is broken open by Killer Frost and Bronze Tiger, and it says, "You're being recruited. Our boss would like to meet you, and to be continued in Task Force XX, because X isn't enough anymore apparently for Waller. Assuming it is Waller, I don't know. These are pretty typical, you know, Task Force X members that, you know, I could see them on that team."
So it'll be 3 X's and it'll just be straight to the porn parody.
Yeah. That's coming next year, I think. Slash definitely already exists somewhere.
But Suicide Squad porn parody? Yeah,
100% after that movie.
Yeah, there was movies, so there's definitely a porn parody.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, if it didn't before that, it definitely does now. That's just a fact of life. But I would say this is not the worst issue that we've had, because I think the writing is pretty straightforward. I do think it's got that, especially the back half of the issue has some really Rosmo problems with sequences just feeling strange and cluttered and awkward angles for the sake of it, as opposed to at the start where the layouts actually fit what was happening a bit better. I'm glad I'm done with it though, like really glad, because yeah, this is still, like, even saying it's better than most of the issues, it's still like a 4. So yeah, no thank you.
All right. What's next then? You got Tim Drake Robin issue 2.
Yeah, I did read that, didn't I? So I don't know how much you pay attention to me during these, probably not much. Do you have any recollection at all what some of my complaints with the first issue were, beyond Rosmo? Because look, it's another Rosmo book.
If I remember right, it was very reliant on what was already written in the Urban Legends story. So
yeah, I was so confused during even this issue now.
Oh, okay.
So there are parts of it I could pick up on where it's continuing this thread of, oh, it's being aped from, like, yeah, we're taking famous stories and the villain is recreating them. But at one point in this issue, randomly, Tim gains a sidekick. And it is a girl who is blonde and dressed in purple. And is wearing a mask, but it's like a purple hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, who is this? Is this supposed to be Steph? For pages. Like, probably about 6 pages. Because I had no idea who this was supposed to be. But, you know, blonde, a light purple hoodie. I thought, yeah, maybe it's Steph in civvies. Because Tim's, like, not always in his outfit when he's with her. But I was like, it's not. It's some character called Sparrow. I don't know where she's from. I'm assuming in that urban legend stuff, but I have no idea. But there's no introduction. There's like 6 pages of her before he says the word Sparrow. Like, it was so bad. Like, because I hate, not just to this book, but I hate any comic that doesn't introduce characters properly. Especially the first time they're appearing in a series. But I think it's good practice just to be doing it every issue, just to, like, you know, on their first page, say their name somewhere. You know, you don't have to go all in Legion of Superheroes style and give them a pop-up every time, but having a character just saying their name, so so you're always aware, I think is good practice. I think throwing in this character that I've never seen before, and going, how many pages actually is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 full pages of her before it says her name. And she's a pretty major part of these scenes. She's his sidekick investigating this crime. They're at the library, talking with the old librarian and going through stuff to find the clues. And to not let me have any idea who this character is. Yeah, no, that's really just bad. That's just outright bad. And you gotta be doing better than that. And you know, it doesn't help that it's Rosmo. So even characters I do know, I'm like, I don't always recognize. I don't recognize Tim out of his uniform in this book, because I'm like, okay, Rosmo. I guess I do now because I know what Rosmo's Tim looks like. But at first, last issue, I didn't realize. But that was bad enough. But this here, I'm like, okay, you know, I'm looking at this through the lens of Rosmo art. I'm like, is this Steph? Is this? So, no, just some random character called Sparrow. Yeah, awful stuff. The rest of the issue, yeah, it's fine. It's still just going through this detective stuff. Tim's been framed for stealing this diamond, and he's trying to figure out which story this lines up with. And there's some stuff going on in the background of because he's living in the docks, and there's a councilman trying to get them all evicted because he doesn't like them, and he hasn't liked them there for years. You know, that's just like background stuff that'll be going on in the run. That's fine. It ends with him being attacked by robins, because whoever this villain is like sending the robins, and he's sat in a chair and he's got a lot of like masks, like face masks, like, you know, the rubber ones that you can pull on, like, you know, like a whole collection of them behind him. So I'm assuming it's people wearing these outfit, you know, these masks and outfits. But yeah, there's like 3 robins with machine guns, like little Uzis, to come and attack him on a rooftop. Is a cliffhanger, which is a fine cliffhanger, but yeah, it's actually a really bad issue, even without the Rosmo art, which is so disappointing because I was so excited for a Tim Drake book. I was like, I really wanted it. I really wanted a Tim Drake book, and this is what I get, and I hate it. I really hate it. I don't like this so much. I think this is a worse issue than that Harley issue.
Oh dear.
Yeah, this is.
The only thing that could make this perfect is if next Rosmo goes on to a Guy Gardner book.
Oh, don't you bloody dare!
That's the beautiful.
Don't you dare! You can have him on Carl Rayner. He can't make that stupid crab mask look any worse.
How dare you, you snivelling little shithead!
No, it can't look any worse, even if Rosmo draws it.
Now, what you're trying to say is that even Rosmo can't screw it up. It would still look good.
No, that was not what I was trying to say.
That's what you were trying to say. Yes, I was picking up what you were putting down.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm just gonna give it a 3 to give it an official score.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, one more. We're almost done, everyone. Noctera issue 11.
Yeah, end of the arc. Big explosive stuff. Pretty good. Lots of action, as you'd expect. Tony Daniel draws the hell out of action, so yeah, that's fine. It ended last time with Piper kind of sending everything to shit and kind of shutting down the power to the base, so all the megas are coming to get them. At first, great distraction. Inevitably, it goes wrong. But before it goes wrong, there's some betrayals and some stuff. Bill's like, hey, let's get the code. He's basically like promising them that instead of going to Eos and using the sun won't do anything anyway. So let's worship this god in the dark that there is. And it had a name. I can't remember what the name of this thing was. Nox. But it's like, hey, join me. It'll protect us. It won't let us get eaten. It'll be on our side. It'll be all good. Just give me the coordinates for Eos so we can go and destroy it. And obviously the group are all like, no, we're not going to do that. And then one of the groups like, yeah, screw it. I'll tell you. I want to live. So gives them the coordinates. and then immediately gets shot. And obviously. So now they're trying to stop Bill and escape and get to Eos while these other, the big mega, like, I think like megalodon sharks, basically, are coming to attack them in this base. And it turns out the only way for them to get out is for Val to kind of sacrifice herself. She's going to stand by the door, blow all these charges. That'll distract them enough so that the rest of them can run across the bridge and get back to the convoy. And you have this big kind of thing where she chooses to sacrifice herself, and and Piper has to go and replan, and they've got to have I think M's the new leader of the convoy, and they got a new plan of what they're going to do, because instead of just trying to use Eos to outshine the dark, they're like, no, that's not going to work. We're going to have to embrace the darkness to a point and then kind of take it out from there. It's a really strong issue. And then you have an epilogue page, which is seemingly Val rising up from the waters, not dead, but now covered in that same kind of black substance that Bill is. So she's kind of one of them now, which will be interesting to see when she links back up with everyone, presumably at some point towards the end of the next arc, and how that's going to go down. Exciting stuff for that. But yeah, it's been a really solid arc. This kind of ends in a place that isn't particularly surprising. Yeah, it has the big showdown. It has the reconfiguring the direction of where we're going to go next, with the pretty strong emotional beat of Val's sacrifice that is not actually undermined by the ending reveal of her being alive, because no one else knows that. They all still go through that emotion. It still lands and hits, as it should. It just has this extra beat at the end for us. So I dug that a lot. I'll probably give it an 8.
All right, cool. Well, that'll take us out of the part of the show where we pick our favourite stuff of the week, favourite panel/moment, favourite cover, favourite art, and top 5 books. So we'll start off with panel/moment. Connor, what do you have?
I'm going to go from the Mr. Freeze issue. I'm just going to go with that panel of it's Batman just at the entrance to the tunnel. I think that just looks stunning.
Yeah. What am I picking? I don't know. I've got a number of choices I could take. I do like a couple of moments in that. There's a couple of great moments in Nightwing that one could easily take. World's Finest has got that great moment with Dick whispering to Superman. So I think, all that said, I think I'm going to go with the Blue Wall. I'm going to go with the murder towards the end of the issue. It's a really well handled moment that kind of just is the punctuation, the full stop on the entire point of the issue, which really hits. So I'll go with that. All right, cover of the week. I wasn't sure what to go with for this, actually. I really like World's Finest. It's Dan Mora, obviously, and it's got the joke from Joker, which I actually think is really funny. But I think I'm going to go with one of the One Bad Day covers, because there's a few.
Yeah, but which one?
There's a few good ones, yes. The main one, which is obviously Batman and Robin running in what looks like a snow globe, but it looks like Freeze's helmet at the same time. It's kind of got a cool look to it.
Yeah, I mean, even the Jim Lee cover I think is stunningly good.
Yeah, it's just a close up of Freeze's face.
That's the first Jim Lee cover in a while that I've gone, damn.
Even the Sweeney Boo one's got a nice kind of.
Yeah, obviously I think it's a little bit anime for your tastes with Mora, but there's something about that muted color palette that just really brings a lot of these covers to life and then makes them stand out.
I think I'm going to go with the regular one. I think that's the one I'm picking, but...
Yeah, I think I'm going with the same one, but there's at least 3 great covers for this book that are probably above any other book this week.
All right, art of the week.
That's so tough because it comes down to me between One Bad Day and World's Finest. and I think I'm going to give it to One Bad Day. But man, it says a lot that Mora can turn in a regular issue on a monthly book and still be fighting contention with these, one shots that have typically more time dedicated to them from the art department.
Yeah, I hadn't given it too much thought. I do want to say Pasarin was very good on Flash, and obviously Raffaele was very good on Blue Wall. But there wasn't really much art this week that I didn't like. Even Nicuolo, who's not necessarily my style, was really befitting of what the story was. It still fit the material very well. Yep. That said, though, I'm still going with One Bad Day because it was overall the biggest showpiece and had lots of great moments and was a nice, pleasant surprise. So, yeah. And then top 5 books of the week. Go.
Oh God. I think first, maybe Black Adam, actually. Yeah, I think I'm going to go... No, I'm going to go GCPD, Blue Wall, and then Black Adam. But it's pretty close. Then Nightwing, then World's Finest, and then One Bad Day, which tells you just how good the art was. That it was my top art. It had my panel for art, but still only just kind of cracked the top 5 for me.
Yeah, I think I will go number 1. I'll also say Blue Wall. I'll say number 2 is One Bad Day, though. Number 3, World's Finest. Number 4, Stargirl. Number 5, Nightwing, I think. Yeah. Flash and DCeased being the 2 that are left off for me makes sense. I had a pretty good week, though. My average was very comfortable, and it was a very consistent week for me for the most part. So, very good. I will now tell you what is coming next week from DC Comics. So, we have Detective Comics 1066, Action Comics 1049. That's the one that's not got Connor on it.
Oh, yeah, I see it. It's a nice cover as well.
It's a very nice cover. DC vs. Vampires issue 11, The Human Target issue 9, Harley Quinn 24, Deathstroke Inc. issue 15, Dark Crisis The Dark Army issue 1, Tim Drake Robin issue 3, Batman Fortress issue 7, Batman Gotham Knights Gilded City issue 2, DC Horror Presents Sergeant Rock vs. the Army of the Dead issue 3, Punchline the Gotham Game, if I can say that properly, issue 2, Young Justice Targets issue 5, DC Mech issue 5, the Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 2, and Batman The Audio Adventures issue 3. So that's what's the entire slate for next week is. But there's a couple of big things there. Human Targets, a big book that I'm sure me and Matt will be really excited about.
Action is always a great 1-2 punch.
Yeah. That was an interesting pair to get together. So
DC versus Vampires is going to be coming towards the end as well, right?
That's the penultimate issue, yeah. It's only 12 total. Yeah. So yeah, it should be a fun time next week. I kind of wish they left that the announcements for next week, because we had solicits this week, but hey, whatever. We'll cope, I guess. But there you go. That's what's coming. So which leads me to just thank you for joining the show, everyone. It has been a pleasure. You can support everything by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us on a regular basis over there, including getting early access to the show sometime late in the Saturday night whenever it's ready. You can also, of course, hit the well, there's no super thanks button on that channel, but you can like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff on YouTube. All of it helps. Rate us on your podcast app of choice and share us out with your friends on whatever social media platform you use and still exists. But that is all that. And I'll also thank our Patreon producers for the month. Thank you to Tyler Hess, Andy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, Christopher Moy, David Brown, Al Tradesman, and Alison M. Fordyce. Thank you to you all, and all of our patrons for supporting us.
Just say, should Twitter die/be dead already? We're still in Discord. We have a Discord server.
There's a Discord, yes. There's Discord. I did make a Mailed Fuzz Mastodon account not too long ago. No one's really used it yet, but it's there.
It exists.
It exists. Yeah.
Should we need it? Yeah.
But pretty much, I would say if like Twitter does just disappear and you need to contact us in some way, the Patreon's a good way of doing it, or just go to the YouTube page and there'll be links to a lot of relevant things in the descriptions for the recent episodes. The easiest way of doing things. But that is us. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.